106 on the calendar in the matter of Ward versus Price Ward. Price has been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mrs. Ward, the defendant is your son, and the co-defendant is his fiancée or girlfriend. Correct. You have children together?
Yes, ma'am. Not together. I have a son and she has a daughter.
But they live with you?
Yes, ma'am.
I've read your complaint very carefully, Mrs. Ward. This is your husband?
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, you claim that your son assaulted you in his home, and that his fiancée was present, and while there is no claim that she assaulted you, she did nothing to prevent it.
Correct.
I don't know why you're standing up as a plaintiff, just to give moral support to your wife, sir?
Well, not only moral support, but I was there also because I wanted to stop the situation with my
You
boy.
were there on the evening of this alleged assault with your wife?
Yes, I was.
Why were you and your wife at your son's home?
Okay, my wife had called my son up. She wanted to talk to him. This is through a prior conversation she's been trying to deal with him for a while.
About what, Mrs. Ward?
Go ahead.
About the TV and the VCR.
Tell me about the TV and the VCR.
My son and his wife then were having problems. Sean had sold everything in his house. He didn't have a good job like he does now. I mean, he was doing work, piecework.
Just a second. I read your complaint very carefully. Let me see if I can make this, because this is just a background to the story.
Okay.
Your son came to live with you for a while.
Yes, ma'am.
He was supposed to pay you rent, $50 a week.
Right.
He didn't pay you the rent.
No,
Exactly.
ma'am, I did pay.
Shh.
Okay.
You claimed he didn't pay you the rent. And you said, when you move, you'll leave me the TV and the VCR for the rent. And then when he moved out, he took the TV and the VCR.
Yes, ma'am.
And the reason you and your husband went over there that night was to take back the TV and the VCR.
Yes, ma'am.
Now tell me what happened when you got there.
They were eating dinner. So we went in the living room while they was eating and watched TV. The children were there too, eating. They got done, came in and gave us a hug, you know, and Michelle was getting them ready for bed. And so Sean says, well, you're here, what do you want to talk about? And I said, the TV and VCR. He said, I knew that's what it was going to be about. And he stood up. I said, he says, I do not owe you anything, Mom, nothing, and I want you out of the house. Well, I have a book right here where I kept notes, and his signature is on it. And I said, son, I have proof. I opened the book, and that's when he stood up and got very angry at me, and told me to, I don't want to tell the words he said, to get out.
Get out of the house.
And actually, I didn't really believe him. I meant, he's my baby son, and I believe in his
Just
words.
a minute. So he told you to leave his house at least twice?
Yes, ma'am.
And then what happened?
And I said, you're kidding, Sean. He said, I'm not kidding. Baba. He said some other words. And I said, then I'll go up and get it myself. I know I can't. Look at me, how much I weigh. I knew I couldn't get it myself.
Where was your husband during all this time?
Can I speak? I was in the living room.
So you were in the living room. So your
Yes.
wife was going to go upstairs and take the TV and the VCR. That's what she said she was going to do anyway.
That's correct.
So she started up the stairs, and what happened, Mrs. Ward?
Well, as she proceeded to start upstairs, first of all, I was shocked on the whole situation, the anger he threw at his mother. As I seen this anger, I just kind of looked at him and said, you know, you shouldn't talk to your mother that way because she is your mother, irregardless, you know, what she says or does. She proceeded to go upstairs. I went with her upstairs to slow her down and said, honey, I think we might as well go ahead and leave. And she says, well, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stay right here till he either gives me the VCR and the TV. And at that point, he says, well, I'm going to call the sheriff. She said, well, go ahead and call the sheriff. And he just got angry at that point. He says, well, the heck with it. As I was proceeding to hold her back a little bit from proceeding upstairs, then he turned around and got angry and turned around and says, well, by God, I'll get her out. Then he jerked her off the step, holding onto the steps, threw her on his back. I told him, do not hurt your mother. He says, oh, I'm going to put her out if that's the only way I can get her out. Then I heard a big old thud in the living room, and I come running in there. She had hit the floor. I don't know if he dropped her or what happened. She was really hurt, and at that time she was speechless. She was shocked, and she says, I am going on my own. You don't need to manhandle me anymore.
Incorrect.
So he proceeded to pick her up by the arm, straight up, head on out the door, all the way to the car, slammed her into the car, She hit her head on the door as she went in. And at that time, he just said, "This is where you're going to stay. Get out of here." So that's as far as it went. Why I didn't do anything. People says, "Well, why didn't you get a pipe and hit him over the head?" First of all, he's my son. I do love him. I love my wife both. I'm there trying to make a choice so quickly, and I'm not really much of a match to go jumping ahead and start doing something to my son again to his house. So there's a lot of thoughts had to go through my head. And
Was your wife drinking that day?
No, she was not.
She had anything to drink of an alcoholic nature? Just
No,
make sure.
she doesn't.
She don't drink. She might drink a little something. It wasn't alcohol that
Okay,
had
so
anything to do with
this
it.
was not alcohol related. She was in total control of her senses
It was drug
when she
induced.
came to your house. Is that right?
Drug-induced, not alcohol.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
That was part of the deal. It showed
Deal, Schmiel, listen to
I
me.
gave him a place to live, Your Honor.
Big deal. He's your child.
And later today,
The relationship was quite expensive.
He gave me a promise ring.
She was constantly asking for money.
He promised to marry me.
I felt that I was being taken advantage of, literally.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Donna Ward says her son, Sean Ward, assaulted her while she was visiting his home. Sean says his mother was belligerent and refused to leave.
You take prescription
Yes,
medication?
ma'am,
Yes.
I do.
Now, you have photographs of your injuries?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd
Yes,
like to
we
see
do.
them. The marks that I see on your arms are consistent with being picked up by your arms.
Yes, ma'am.
That was your injury.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I'm going to let you tell me your side of the story, Mr. Ward.
Okay.
Okay. First of all,
Go.
the case is dismissed for all purposes against Miss Price because she did not participate in this,
Correct.
other than to stand by and do nothing, which is the same thing you did, Mr. Ward. She's not even married to him. You're married to her. Why would you sue Miss Price?
Because I felt like, just like he did, tried to get Sean to calm down, I was hoping that maybe she...
Your
I don't
husband
know.
didn't come to your defense. Why would a stranger?
Not for me, for her husband. I thought maybe she would ask Sean to stop. I mean, that's all.
She's not a party to this case.
Okay.
So, tell me your version of the events. Your mother came to get...
yes,
your mother
ma'am.
came...
My mother came to the house. I had paid them $100 a week instead of the $50 that she was agreed on to pay. So therefore, she knew the TV was paid for. She let me take it on wheel out the house. The only reason that I had any confrontation with her at all, because both my 5- and 6-year-old kids were standing in the living room, that she had asked for them to be present. I thought maybe she had a health problem that she was getting ready to tell us about. And when she did come up with that situation, I did get angry, but I did stand up and ask them both to leave. I opened both the doors, and I said, well, y'all need to leave. And I might have said it a little meaner, to get out of my house.
Right.
They would not leave.
Ultimately, you picked her up and put her out of the house.
Yes, ma'am, I picked her up
And
off
that's
the
what
steps.
and that's what the marks are on her arm.
That possibly could be.
All right. This part of the case is pretty easy. Mr. and Mrs. Ward, you are not entitled to any damages. You entered his home with his permission.
Exactly.
Then he asked you to leave. You refused to leave. At that point, you are trespassing on his property. He asked you to leave again. You still would not leave. The law permits him, as I'm sure the judge told you in court when you were there on the criminal case, that he has the right to use reasonable force. Can't shoot you. He can't stab you. But he can physically take you and move you out of his property, which is exactly what he did. Now, the fact that I don't understand why you are there trying, if your son is finally back on his feet, and he's now got a good job, and he's got a home, and he's got 2 kids that he's taking care of, why in the world you would make a big deal out of a television set and an old VCR, I haven't a clue.
I'll tell
But
you.
I'm not going into that.
Okay.
Because there's no logical reason why you would go to his house and create a scene with 2 children there to get back a TV and a VCR that you think was owed to you for rent.
I did not. I let the children go upstairs. I've asked him without the children being around.
I don't know why you would ask for it at all.
Because, ma'am, That was part of the deal. It showed
Deal,
him-
Schmiel, listen to
I
me.
gave him a place to live, Your Honor.
Big deal. He's your child.
I know, and I'm his mom. I
Moms
did
don't go
not
to-
want to do this.
Well, you shouldn't have done
Sean knows in his heart that he said, I believed in his word. And
it. Mrs. Ward.
Yes, ma'am.
How many children do you have?
I have 7.
If your child has not been doing well for a while, as you said, he'd been in and out of your house, and he was finally, according to you, finally got a good job and back on his feet, what mother in her right mind would say, now I'm going to take the television set that you watch and the VCR that you watch or that the children watch in their room? There's no excuse. You could talk from today till tomorrow. I have children.
I know.
And for $250, you went to the house to make a scene?
No, ma'am, I did not intend to make any kind of
Of course
scene.
you did. Because
No,
once
ma'am.
he said to you, I'm here for the TV and the VCR, and he said, I don't want to talk about it
I
now,
only
please
started
leave, then you decided to go upstairs and you said, I'm going to take it myself. That's creating a scene.
I didn't think that I was very smart, Your Honor.
Oh, fine.
But he had
Good.
gotten a big, huge television, and I figured that he knew we were down. That TV would have helped us. We were down, and there was nobody helping us.
Stop it. Your children aren't supposed to help you. You're supposed to help them.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Donna Ward says her son, Sean Ward, assaulted her while she was visiting his home. Sean says his mother was belligerent and refused to leave.
You were arrested for assault,
Yes, ma'am.
and those charges were dismissed.
Yes, ma'am.
And I assume that they were dismissed, Mr. Ward, because they ultimately determined that you had the legal right to put your mother off the property.
Correct on
Is
her
that
own
right?
testimony. I didn't even have to testify.
Right. You can't sue her.
Right.
Here, you can't sue her.
Correct.
The district attorney determined that there was sufficient evidence to go to trial with because your mother had your fingerprint marks on her arms.
Correct.
Why she proceeded that far, I don't know, but she did. So you have no right to sue her for false arrest because you did, in fact, put your hands on her. You weren't in fear of your life from your mother.
No,
You weren't in fear of life, and certainly not from
No,
your
ma'am.
father because he didn't do anything.
No, ma'am. I intended no harm, and due respect to you and her, I do love my mother. Only thing I have here is the bills that I had to pay, my lawyer bills, and
You shouldn't have put your hands on your mother.
and then been out.
You shouldn't have put
You're
your,
absolutely correct,
You shouldn't
ma'am.
have put
but
your hands
I
on
was
your mother.
looking
Pay your
forward-
own bills.
I was looking forward
Case
to
is
my
dismissed.
kids.
That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I have always believed in his word, and if you can't stand by your word, what else do you have?
He's upset with the fact that he's fighting with his mother, I mean, which no person wants to be, and I just wish it would all be over with.
I would like us to be a family. I don't know if that's possible.
What I wanted was just my name to be cleared, and that happened. So I'm very happy about it.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Brown versus Valero. Step forward, please.
Home health care provider Greg Brown is suing his ex-fiancée, insurance claims assistant Christina Valero, for an unpaid loan. Christina says Greg forgave the loan when they began dating.
Mr. Brown, you claim a loan to the defendant.
Yes, ma'am.
When she was in some financial difficulty.
Yes, ma'am.
The loan was for rent. The loan was for, I think, $2,300.
Yes, ma'am.
You were paid back $200 from a relative of hers.
Yes, ma'am.
With an outstanding balance of $2,100.
Yes, ma'am.
However, she says that you forgave that loan after you started dating. Is that what your defense is?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. When did you meet her, Mr. Brown?
Early September,
Of what year?
2001, ma'am.
And when did you make this loan for the rent and under what circumstances?
She came to me, she gave me a phone call and said that she was going to be thrown out of her apartment. I gave her the loan under the conditions that she would sign an IOU and pay me back.
Can I see it, please? I assume that's the piece of paper you have.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, I typed that letter, and,
I wasn't speaking to you.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, as we persisted on our friendship, grew into a relationship, the relationship was quite expensive. She was constantly asking for money. $100 here, $100 there. I felt that I was being taken advantage of, literally. So she had told me that she was going to a dinner party with her company in Santa Rosa, and she was supposed to come back that night.
When was that, sir?
That was September 28th, I believe.
Still during the month of September?
Yes, yes. She refused who come back because she said she fell asleep in her car and was there all night. Well, I'm not exactly a fool, so I figured that she was doing something she wasn't supposed to do. At that time, I figured her irresponsibility to the relationship was not what I was looking for, so I dismissed it.
So you terminated the relationship?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and you asked her back for the money?
Yes, I did.
Okay, I'll hear from you, Ms. Valero.
We started as friends, and I was in a financial difficulty at that time, and he offered that he would help us.
Who's us?
My daughter, my sister-in-law here, my son.
Go ahead.
I even typed a promissory note thinking that I would, I would really pay him. And then he said, we went out to dinner and he said he's interested in me. And we started dating, and then he gave me a promise ring, which is this.
All in the month of September?
Yes.
Go ahead, keep going.
And then on my birthday, he gave me this.
When's your birthday?
December.
Now we're jumping to December.
Mm-hmm. Well, the whole month of November, we were fine. Then we broke up for maybe 2-3 weeks because of that incident that I went out with my friends.
Could you get to your defense, please? I'm really anxious.
He promised to marry me. He asked me to marry him.
Yes. When did he ask you to marry him?
Like November.
And what did you say?
And I said, okay, we'll, if our relationship is going good,
I'm waiting for the defense.
Please.
Finally,
Shh.
Finally, all of a sudden, he told me that his mother died. I tried calling him and calling him.
I'm getting weak. Would you tell me what your defense is, madam?
There is no defense.
He disappeared on me.
Yes.
And he told me that when we're together, the loan is gone.
He said if the relationship gets that deeper, you don't have to pay me back the money.
Yes.
So it didn't get that deep. So you have to pay him back the money. What is
Yes,
so hard
Your
to
Honor.
understand?
Yes, Your Honor, it got deeper because we tried looking for a house and we were talking about marriage.
So?
He even put away an engagement ring for me.
It sounds like he was a very nice man. He's not asking you for the jewelry back.
He is.
No, he isn't. Not in this lawsuit.
Yes,
He's
he
not.
told my sister-in-law here.
He's not
that he
asking for
wanted-
it. Listen, this is his one shot at a lawsuit. He's not asking for the jewelry back. He knows that was a gift.
That's right.
He knows he can't get the jewelry back. Jewelry that looks very nice on you, and I'm sure you enjoy wearing. This was a loan. And if he forgave the loan, what you do is you say, if you forgive the loan, Greg, if you forgive the loan, could I have the IOU back that I signed and I typed, and I'd like to rip it up. We'll have a ripping up IOU party. That's what you do when he forgives the loan. Meanwhile, you have to pay him back his money. Stop being a gold digger and a taker. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,100. That's all.
Now, this is case number 156 on the calendar in the matter of Gray versus Ashpole. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
Mr. Gray, you and the defendant dated briefly while she was separated from her husband. And according to your complaint, during that time you made 2 loans to her. The first loan was for an attorney, and the second was to catch up on a mortgage payment. The defendant says you never made any loans to her, but did give her money. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
Now, when did you meet her?
It was during bowling season.
I don't know when bowling season is, sir.
About 2001
Excuse me?
in the fall.
Can you get any closer by, say, month?
Okay, August, how's that? We were
August
just,
of 2001.
yes, and we were just friends up at the bowling alley, sitting there talking and, joking around. Eventually, right
You met
around St.
bowling-
Patrick's Day.
Shh.
All right,
We're going to have a conversation here, which means
Okay.
you'll talk and then I'll talk.
okay.
Did you meet her at bowling?
She was a waitress, I was a bowler, yes.
When did you separate from your husband?
In June.
So you were separated at the time that you met the plaintiff, is that right?
No, we were friends when I was at work. So I knew him while I was still married, yes.
But in August of 2001 is when you started to date him?
No.
When?
May of 2001.
And when did you separate from your husband?
In June.
Okay. Shh. When was this loan for a lawyer?
Roughly August 2001.
that right?
July of 2001.
Now I'd like you to tell me the circumstances surrounding that, sir. You're not very good at dates. Let's see if you're better at the substantive part of it.
I'm the lawyer. She come up to me and she was having trouble and she wanted a divorce from her husband.
But you were dating at that time.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And I had a good lawyer friend that I referred her to, and he cut her a deal and gave her half of the retainer fee. So I gave her the $750 in cash so she could go get things taken care of. And at that point, I made her understand it was still a loan to her, not a gift.
How did you make that clear, sir?
Just by talking and told her what I said.
I want you to tell me what you said and what she said.
She told me she would pay me back within a reasonable short amount of time.
She said she would pay you back?
Yes, she did.
Now, what's your version of the lawyer story?
The lawyer story is that he had this great friend that worked on his divorce case, and I needed to get this started. And he gave me the money.
Now, what did you say to him and what did he say to you?
Let me give you the money. Let me help you. Let me give you the money to get it. Otherwise, where are you going to be? You're not going to have an attorney. I'm sorry, I'm not looking at you. You're not going to have an attorney without any money. Let me help you. Mm-hmm. There was nothing ever about any loan.
Well, why would he give
any
you
payback?
Why would he give you that money? Why would you not expect to
He wanted
pay it
my
back?
divorce.
You wanted a divorce. Why?
I think actually he wanted it probably more than I did.
No. No. Why would you think that you should not pay him back?
Because I didn't, at that particular time, I did not have the means to pay him back, and he knew that. I had told him that, and then this is also about the mortgage.
So you didn't get to the mortgage
I know.
yet.
But I knew that I have 3 children. I'm not getting child support. I'm a working mom. I'm not going to give up my home. At one point, I even had 3 jobs to support my means.
Okay. Now tell me about the mortgage payments, sir.
Well, she was
That's
behind.
the second loan.
She was behind 3 months in her mortgage.
How did you know that?
She told me.
Where were you when she told you that?
We were probably just sitting in her bedroom.
Go ahead.
And she said she was 3 months behind. And she asked if I could help her out. And I said, yes, I can. But again, I loaned her the money. And I made the payments.
Now we'll hear you.
I have never asked him to give me money. I have never asked him to loan me money. I never asked him for anything. We might have been sitting on my bed talking, and I was venting because I was very upset. I was behind. I was not getting any help from my husband that had moved out. Mm-hmm. But I had never asked him for anything.
You told him that you were 3 months behind in your mortgage payment.
Mm-hmm.
How did he pay the mortgage payment?
Actually, I was paying bills, writing things out.
On the bed?
Because I had it out, right. I was paying my other bills that I could afford to pay. I could not afford to pay this. He took the statement out of my hand, picked up the phone, and made a check over the phone to pay the mortgage. And I was telling him,
is that
no,
right, sir? You
please
paid it over
do
the
not
phone?
do that.
I made it by Visa, yes.
You made it by Visa over the phone?
Yes.
And I kept saying, please do not do that. Because if I would have had anything to do with this, I would have at least made him make sure that he paid the right amount. Because he didn't pay the whole thing.
How much was the mortgage?
$3,000.
Your Honor, I would like to also say some other things that I have here.
Go ahead.
After my husband had left, we've never lived together, but Tim never went home. He asked me if he was getting low on his check, should he reorder some and put them in my address. I told him no, it was too soon. I did not think that this was a good idea. To go open my mailbox 2 weeks later to find a box of checks in his name only in my address. He has also bought siding to my shed that I told him to return.
So?
I also fixed a lot of stuff in the house. Shortly after her husband left.
You've cared for her.
Oh, yes. I cared very much.
You cared for her. Did you follow through with your divorce?
It's in the works right now.
What happened to the two of you? Just curious.
Well, she couldn't handle my kids. My kids are very outspoken. They tell it as it is, and that's the way I raised them.
They lie.
Just a second.
They raised.
Maybe they're just rude.
No, this is the way we were. We just, told it as this. And she just couldn't handle the way they were.
How old are your children?
I got 4, 22, 21, 19, and 16. And, I love them dearly. And she couldn't handle it, so she, went her way a little while. Before I knew that, she was starting to date another guy from the bar. Past I heard that she was back with her husband again, from what I heard, and here I am.
Is that true?
No, it's not.
You heard wrong.
Yep, okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She was very manipulative in what she did a lot of things on.
That's not what you told me
But I
before.
don't loan that type of money without.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
You do if you're in love.
And later today,
Mr. Bridges, what date did they take the computer home?
Forgive me. Oh, great. I'm a little nervous. I apologize.
Don't be nervous. I only eat litigants on Tuesdays. Just Tuesdays.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Tim Gray says ex-girlfriend Lisa Ashpole owes for a loan to retain a divorce attorney and a separate loan to pay her mortgage. Lisa says Tim was attempting to buy her love.
Mr. Gray?
Yes.
I am usually not predisposed to finding that monies paid under these circumstances are gifts. I'm usually predisposed to find that even under these circumstances, there is some obligation to repay money. Because if I find that one person is trying to get over on another, I think there's a certain inequity there. If you care for her more than she cares for you, and she's using that and is sort of bilking you for money, I think that that's an immoral thing, and that shouldn't happen. I don't get the sense of that here, sir. I really don't. What I do is sense, Mr. Gray, that you cared for her. You wanted her not to be stressed. You knew she was hardworking, and she was trying to make ends meet. She wasn't getting much money from her husband, the father of these children, and you wanted to help her because you cared for her. You had checks printed with her address. You planned on moving in to her home. You planned on being a family together. So I don't believe that under those circumstances you would have said to her, this is a loan.
But
I don't believe that that happened, sir. I believe that when she was sitting on the bed and being very unhappy because she had all of this mounting debt, you, in a very magnanimous way, like a hero, got up, went to the phone, called your Visa, and said, I want you to pay this bill.
that wasn't the way it happened, Your Honor.
I think it probably was, Mr. Gray.
She was very manipulative in what she did a lot of things on.
That may be true, sir. That's not what you told me
But
before.
I don't loan that type of money without.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
You do if you're in love. You do if you're in love. You say, I want us to be together, and I want us to have a future together, and I don't want you to be stressed, and I want to show you that I can help take care of you, and that's what I'm going to do. And I believe that's what you did, Mr. Gray. And while my rulings usually do not go this way, I don't believe she was being manipulative. I believe that you were being in love and reacting appropriately, and unfortunately it didn't work out.
Maybe
You say
I
it was
was.
because of your kids. Maybe it was. But certainly, I don't believe she was being manipulative. I think that in the time that you were together, I think that she probably cared for you. Is that true?
Well, she cared, but she also agreed that she would pay me back.
I don't believe that, Mr. Gray. Your case is dismissed.
Audience are excused. You may step out.
They're just outspoken.
I don't have a problem with the outspokenness because I can be very outspoken as well.
She lied through her way and got her way out of it again.
His 16-year-old slapped my 6-year-old and left a big welt on his buttocks. Yeah.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Beausoleil versus Bridges. Step forward, please.
Doll artist Carol Beausoleil is suing computer business owner Jeff Bridges for a refund on a computer. Carol says Jeff sold an outdated computer to her minor son.
Miss Beausoleil, where is your son?
He didn't come because he's afraid to go on planes, and he just felt really awkward, and
How old is he?
17.
He didn't come because he's embarrassed. I can understand why he would be embarrassed under the circumstances of this case.
Oh, okay,
According to
yeah,
your
you're
complaint,
right.
Miss Beausoleil, your son wanted a computer, and he had a friend who worked in a computer store. Two of you discussed it and thought it would be a good idea for him to go to the computer store where his friend works. Are you the friend?
Yes.
For him to buy a computer, a used computer, because he needed it for the internet.
Right.
So he went with his friend to the computer store owned by the defendant and was sold a used computer with a monitor. The whole package was $420?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, by the way.
Good morning. And you say the computer crashed at some point and you want your money back.
Yeah.
What date did you sell the boy the computer?
Speaking to me, Your Honor?
Yes.
Your
I'm
Honor?
looking at you, I'm talking to you.
Sorry. I sold it on March 28th of 2002, and it was a used computer system.
Okay. And you told him it was used?
Yes, I did.
Did he give you a deposit?
Yes, he gave me a $50 deposit.
Did he take the computer with him?
No, not right away.
So he really bought it on layaway?
Yes.
Now, when your son came home, your son was 17 at the time?
Yeah.
Did you discuss with your son that he had found a computer that he liked and he put a $50 deposit on it?
Right.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So did you go down to the computer store to
Yes.
look at it?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah. It looked brand new.
Well, you knew it wasn't brand new.
No.
You knew it was used.
It was a few years old.
When did you take the computer home?
It was about a month after. We brought it home.
Just to answer my questions. Your son isn't here,
Okay.
so I have to do this my way. Mr. Bridges, what date did they take the computer home?
Forgive me. Oh, great. I'm a little nervous. I apologize.
Don't be nervous. I only eat litigants on Tuesdays. Is this Tuesday?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Carol Beausoleil says business owner Jeff Bridges sold a worthless computer to her minor son.
Go ahead.
Okay. $328 is what I have.
$328 is the first payment of $50,
Oops,
Mr. Bridges.
I'm sorry. Actually, Your Honor, if I may show these to you, because
Why? If you can't find it, why are you giving it to me? I don't get paid to get tortured, Mr. Bridges.
Well,
she says it was a month later, so let's say it was a month later.
Okay,
they
yeah.
made the final payment, you gave them the computer.
Yes.
All right. Now, Ms. Beausoleil, you now bring the computer home. Who made the last payment, you or your son?
I gave my son the money to go and put down.
All right, after you had already been there to see it.
Right.
Fine.
If I may, Your Honor, she actually came into this the store to make the last payment and a check.
Well, you had to bring it in the car. We had to, you know.
Oh, so you went and made the last payment.
With my son.
Fine. No, you went. You're the adult. Your son is a minor. He cannot enter into a contract.
Right. Okay.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
If your son had gone in there alone, Mr. Bridges might have had a problem. But your son didn't go there alone. He went there with you, Miss Beausoleil.
Right.
You knew you weren't getting any guarantee with the computer.
Oh, yeah, there's a guarantee. I have a guarantee here.
Let me see it.
And I have this over here that I underlined.
Let's see what the guarantee is. Well, where's the guarantee?
At the very bottom.
It says all repairs are guaranteed for 30 days.
But, I mean, as far as the warranty, too. There's a warranty on it.
Listen, help me out here. Just let her point it to you, Bird. You can point it to me, and then make my life easier.
May I speak?
No.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, he reassured me, I mean, you know, because we were going to have it fixed, and then...
Miss Beausoleil, there was no warranty with this computer. The piece of paper that you gave me said that all repairs done by them are guaranteed for 30 days. You have a document there that does not have a warranty. Is that correct?
Okay, but on the day we picked it up, from that date on, we still had the 30a days.
No! You don't have 30 days. You didn't
Well, you
have
know,
a computer repaired. You bought a computer, a used computer that came without a warranty, which is exactly what I said.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
It's getting harder. Now, you bring the computer home.
Mm-hmm.
What happened when you got it home?
So he set everything up, the technician helped him, and then the system stated it wasn't internet ready, that he needed a lot more RAM. So that was fine. So Linus offered his assistance and added these few things for the computer. And then when I called Jeffrey...
Linus? Is that your name?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, that's my
Yes
son's
is all
name.
I need from you. So
then
he came over and he added stuff for the,
Yeah,
to the
which was
computer.
nice. I mean, we didn't think there was a problem with the computer.
Good.
We thought it
Next.
just needs a few RAMs. So then I called Mr. Bridges to tell him, and he says, well, you know what, Carol, the new modem, it's in the mail. It hasn't arrived yet, but you can use the one we have. But, you know, I just closed my business. He was open for a month. And I figured, well, we'll
Did
just
it
have him-
work? Listen to me. Did it work after Linus put in the RAMs or doodads or whatever it did? Did it work?
It was
for a day, for 2 days, for 5 days.
It worked for some game procedures, but it was very slow.
I don't care if it was slow or not.
Yeah.
It's an old thing, as my husband says. You know, when he has a computer
Mm.
and it's more than 6 months old, he says to me, oh, it's a dinosaur. I need a new computer. You know?
Yeah.
But it worked.
Yeah.
So what are you complaining about?
Well, when I talked to DSL, they said they couldn't, that we couldn't deal with DSL. So in other words, my son couldn't go on internet. He couldn't go on the internet.
What do you want from me? What do you want from Mr. Bridges? You should have made all of these inquiries before you bought the computer. Before you bought the computer. You bought a computer that did not have any warranties whatsoever on it.
Yeah, but he gave me his phone number and said, Carol, if anything goes wrong, just give me a call. So I did. He hung up on me. I had to call the police, and then he did.
What'd you call the police for?
Because he called me a controlling, and he pressed the button. He pressed the button.
So
and it's
you
like,
bothered the police with that?
No, but it seems like when he sold the computer, and after we had it in our house, oh, well, no big deal. I mean,
that's what happens. He's a merchant. Ms. Bosley, do your homework better the next time. If you buy something that's used, especially a computer, what I suggest you do is, I suggest you read all kinds of magazines, get a hold of Consumer Reports, get a hold of everything else, and make an informed judgment. When you're buying something used, it's no different from buying it off the street, unless you get a guarantee from someone that they will honor repairing, maintaining it, or whatever for a period of time.
Well,
the fact that he went out of business, he doesn't have to stay in business to satisfy you. If he can't make a living, he's entitled to go out of business.
Yeah.
You bought a computer with no recourse because you have no guarantee. And anything that's not in your contract, the fact that he gave you his phone number, you cannot amend a written contract, which is what you have, with an oral statement, call me if you have any problems. That's what everybody says. That's like the check is in the mail. You know, call me with any problems. Ms. Bosley, you should be wise enough not to get involved with something like this.
But see, it was because of Linus being my son's friend. Linus knows more about computers. My son is kind of illiterate when it comes to computers.
Then buy him a new computer with a guarantee.
Yeah.
Case is dismissed.
Now, this is case number 200 on the calendar in the matter of Wofford versus Cox. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats.
Ms. Wofford, you and the defendant, according to your complaints, had an off-again, on-again relationship for about 7 years.
Correct.
The last time it was off again, it is your claim that he came into the house and took all the property, half of which was yours. He says he got sick and tired of being tossed out with the clothes on his back over the 7-year period and decided that he was going to take the property this time because he paid for it and it's his. He's got a counterclaim for a truck that he purchased for $750 that he says was put in your name because he had some driver's license problems and you had the truck towed onto your property and he wants his truck back. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So my question is, why are you bothering me? Together on and off for 7 years, not married. You see, we don't have courts here for those people who choose just to live together. We have courts for people who are married and divorcing. You know, the property is either community property or it's property that is divided by equitable distribution. But you expect me to go back and figure out who bought what? Is that what you want?
No. No.
So what do you want?
I would like half of what was given, or half of what was ours.
Who bought it?
We bought it together. We shared all of our monies together.
Did you have a joint bank account?
No, we did not.
You mean you would see a TV and you would say, well, the TV is $500. Here's $250 and here's $250.
That's correct.
Show me. No, the burden is on her.
Okay.
Just listen to me. The burden is on her.
Okay. I would be more than glad to show you proof of receipts, but when he came into my house after the day he broke the restraining order, they took all the receipts. They took the contents of the file came. So I have no receipts. I have pictures of what the TV looks like. I have warranty cards on it.
Did you
That's
go
all
into
I
the
have
house after there was a restraining order filed against you?
I thought I was illegally served. I even called the courts. It was the next day. I went back and only took what things were mine.
Tell me what you took.
I took my TV, my camping gear, my skis, and things that my parents have given me over the years. Tin cans that we collect.
What else?
And my clothes. VCR that a friend of mine owed me $20, and he gave me his VCR instead because he didn't have the money to pay me back.
What else?
That's all I can remember.
Okay. Now, how long did you live in this apartment together?
About 5 years.
Is that right?
Yeah, a little over 5 years.
Did you sleep in a bed?
Yes, we did.
Did he take the bed?
No.
Did you sit on the couch? Shh. Did you sit on a couch?
Yes.
Did he take the couch?
No.
Did you eat on a table?
Yes.
Did he take the table?
Yes, he did.
Kitchen table?
Yes.
Did you take the table?
Yes. I just purchased it.
Just a second. Took the table. Take the chairs that went with the table?
There was 2 chairs with it.
2 chairs. Now let's go back to the living room. There's a sofa.
Yes.
Is there any chair in the living room?
There was 1 chair.
Did he take the chair?
Yes, he did.
Is that right?
The recliner chair that my mom gave me, yes.
Where did she
Gave us.
Did
My
his
mom
mother
never gave you anything.
Shh. Come on. Swafford. Did the recliner chair come from his mother?
Yes.
Is there a cocktail table in the living room?
Yes, there was.
Okay. And?
He took that also, which was a Christmas gift.
Just a second. Did you, you know, Mr. Cox, when I ask you what you took, you're
I'm
supposed to
sorry.
answer me, sir.
I'm a little nervous, that's all.
I don't care if you're nervous or not. You remembered your skis and you remember the $20 VCR. When I ask you what you took, you're supposed to tell me. How many pieces of furniture did you leave?
Everything that was hers, the couch. She has another kitchen table upstairs. All the 4 chairs that go to that kitchen table.
Just a minute. Is there another kitchen table in the house?
Yes, there was.
And did he leave it?
Oh, yes, he did.
Good. What else?
That was hers.
Oh, just a second. What else did you leave is what I want to know.
Her microwave, the microwave stand. All
Okay,
the
just a second. Was there a microwave in the house?
Yes.
And did he leave it?
Yes.
You see what I'm trying to get at, Ms.
see.
Wofford, is the following. I have absolutely no intention of wasting my time in going through a bunch of ridiculous items of property. You now have a house. Your house has a bed to sleep in, a table and chairs to eat off of, a couch to sit on, right?
Yes, correct.
You have a microwave, and I assume an oven. Oven, it's kind of hard to say, but you have a microwave to warm things up, and as far as I'm concerned, that's as much cooking as any natural person has to have. So you have a perfectly livable condition, and I have no intention of going through items like a table and 2 chairs. You got a table and 2 chairs, you got a table and 4 chairs. You got a couch, you took the recliner chair.
Okay, may I say something? There was personal items of mine that he took.
Like what?
When he took his clothes out of the closet, instead of looking, he just gathered them up like this. There was a ski jacket that was bought for me from my sister. The skis that he took that were given to me by my sister. There was several clothes, my fishing pole, my tackle box, the coffee table that was built for me by my son's friend. And here's a statement from him, from the agreement that him and Ron had on it.
Because I paid for it, that's why the agreements.
No, that is not.
Well,
That
maybe
is-
why don't you explain why we got another coffee table?
Listen to me. Listen to me.
I'm sorry.
Now I want to go back to the truck.
Yes, ma'am.
Who purchased the truck?
I did.
We did.
Ask her
Just a second, just a second.
Ask her who the owners were that I bought it from. She don't even know.
How much did the truck cost?
I paid $700 for it.
Where did you get the $700 from?
I made payments as I was working. Each payday, I made payments on it because I couldn't pay $700 up front.
We made payments
Just a
on
second. Just a second. How did you make payments on it?
Because my boss.
How?
Oh, out of my check.
Check or cash?
Cash.
Now, the rest of the money, sir, went for
Food.
rent and gas and electric, and
And
I
then
assume that you paid those things together.
We did.
Is that right?
My checks usually paid all the bills and stuff because my checks were bigger than her amount because at the time she was only making minimum wage.
Okay. So your checks went to pay the household bills, and her checks went for what?
To get through. She had a direct deposit. In the last 6-8 months, the year that we were together, her money was her money, and mine was mine. More or less, my money got through, and I had to beg her for
That
5
is not true whatsoever.
That
That
is
is not.
true.
Everything we had together was paid 50-50. He paid half the rent. I had paid half the rent.
Show me.
Electricity.
I have some bills to show you that.
I have no.
Did you pay your rent by check?
No, we paid it by cash. And can we
Okay,
get back
listen to me. Listen to me. Hey!
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Can we talk about the restraining order he broke?
No.
Ma'am, what about the...
No.
And later today,
This is her signature, 213. No deposit. Price of the puppy, $500. No deposit. What are you, a Swiftie? I mean,
No,
what's
ma'am,
wrong
that's
with
her
you?
signature, ma'am.
No, it isn't.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Diane Wofford says ex-boyfriend Ron Cox stole her belongings when he moved out of their apartment. Ron says Diane stole his truck.
Do you have a car?
Yes, I do.
What kind of car do you have?
I have the Toyota pickup and I have a Chevy.
No, what kind of car do you
I
have?
have a Chevy Cavalier that is
All
broken.
right. Now, what year car is it?
It's a 90 Chevy Cavalier.
The time that the truck was purchased, were you driving the Chevy Cavalier?
Yes.
And what was Mr. Cox driving?
He wasn't driving anything at the time because he doesn't have a driver's license.
Bird, would you give me the title, please?
Can we talk about the restraining order he broke?
No.
Okay. Can we talk about his
You can talk
alcoholism?
about you can talk about that with your children, but I'm not interested in it. I'm just interested in getting this. Sorry. I'm just interested in right now the truck. Okay. I see that this truck was purchased in two people's names. Is that right?
I purchased.
Is that right?
It is at the time, yeah.
All right. Now, Mr. Wofford, let me explain to you something, sir. While there is no equitable distribution or community property involved in people living together, when people choose stupidly to live together for 7 years or 5 years without benefit of marriage, I'm going to take the easiest way out for a court in determining who owns property. And as far as I'm concerned, this property is owned 50-50. Do you understand? You chose, for whatever reason, to put her name on the title.
I made that mistake.
You made a mistake. If you made a mistake, why should I have to suffer for it by extending this case any longer than I have to? Now, you paid $700 for the truck?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right? Correct. Very good. Now, Miss Wofford, are you driving this pickup now?
Yes, I am.
What happened to your Chevy?
It's broken. The
So you're driving it?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, correct.
And do you drive it to work?
Yes, I do.
And I assume you want to keep it?
Yes, I do.
Very good. Then you will pay him on his counterclaim,
Okay.
$350. Your claim is dismissed. On the counterclaim, I'm awarding you $350, sir. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Sign over the title.
What about all my stuff? What about my personal belongings that he has
Sign
taken out of
over
my
the
home?
title. Do we have a pen?
Your Honor, may I say something?
No.
Ma'am, what about the...
No. You're getting a truck, Miss Wofford, that in all probability you had nothing to do with paying for, and you're getting it at a bargain price. Do you understand?
I guess.
Do you understand? Worth at least as much as the fishing pole you say that he took, and that somebody's skis that... Did you sign it, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Now, Bird, would you hand that over to Miss Wofford? And then, Bird, would you do me the last favor? Sure. Would you show them out?
Parties are excused. You may step out.
This man came into my home, ripped me off. I have a restraining order about his alcoholism problems this man has had.
The whole relationship was abusive, both physically and mentally.
He's a nothing. He's a no good. He'll always be a no good.
All parties in the matter of King versus Hillegas. Step forward, please.
James King is suing his ex-girlfriend, Connie Hillegas, for unauthorized charges she made on his... James says Connie took advantage of his kindness.
Mr. King, you and the defendant were involved in a relationship, and according to your complaint, you gave her a credit card. The credit card was your sole responsibility. Did it have her name on it?
I placed her on the account, yes.
The payment of it was your responsibility?
Yes.
Solely. And it was, for what purpose did you give her this credit card?
Connie had become ill, and she was out of work. She did not have insurance, and she needed medicine. And I told her she could use the card in emergency situations, but also made it clear that she needed to pay the bill when it came in when she was employed.
How long had you been dating at the time?
About a year.
Were you living together?
No.
What kind of credit card did you get for her?
It's a Sears MasterCard.
And when did you give it to her?
I gave it to her approximately April of 2004.
April of 2004?
Yes, ma'am.
And she had it until when?
Until October of 2006.
Who was getting the bills?
She was. We had put the address for billing to her apartment so that she could pay the bill when it came in, and I wouldn't have to bring the bills over to her.
When did you terminate your relationship?
Probably August of 2006.
And between April of 04 and August of 06, you had no knowledge that there was anything happening with this credit card, if there was any delinquency with this credit card, because all the bills were being handled by Miss Hillegas.
That's correct.
Is that right?
Partially correct, yes.
Well, were you paying the bills as they came in?
Yes, ma'am. The account had been more than once substantial amounts of money on it. I paid it off, Mr. King did live with me. I have many witnesses to that fact.
Just a second. I didn't ask you anything else. What happened, sir, in October of 06?
I got a call from Sears Credit Card Services. They said there were some charges on the card that were suspicious. They didn't understand. I spoke with the people there, and they explained to me that there have been balance transfers from other credit cards that were not in my name.
Can I see that, please? Do you have any?
Yes, ma'am, I sure do, right here.
I'd like to see it. Did you transfer balances from other credit cards to his credit card?
No, ma'am. As a matter of fact, in June, I actually transferred it onto my account, paid the account off in full. As far as they were normal charges that I use every month.
I just asked you a question. did you transfer any other credit card
No, ma'am.
balances to this balance?
No, ma'am.
You did transfer. Capital One card, Merit Bank card, $700.
What was the date on that?
October 5th. Then you had a charge of $295.52 on October 3rd. So you did transfer accounts.
I also have right here a $1,500 payment that I tried to make on the account.
I don't care what you tried to do. What I'm telling you is you transferred other accounts to this account.
And I tried to reverse them, but Mr. King would not allow me to. And I was informed
Why
by
did you
Citibank
do it to begin with?
to try and get this resolved and get this account paid off.
How do you attempt?
In October.
Listen to me. Sure. Come on. How old are you?
42.
Don't try to pull wool over my eyes.
I'm not.
Piddle on my leg. You don't add $1,400 to the account in an attempt to pay it off. It's ridiculous.
Those were
How
also
much is
bills
left
that he
on the
made.
account?
$2,719.47.
Okay, and you want your money.
Yes, ma'am.
Ball's in your court.
The account numerous times went back and forth for 3 years. I paid on the account back and forth. He was living with me over 2 years. Mr. King called and told me that in no circumstances would that account at any time, or he would press charges against me for fraud. I had tried to make a $1,500 balance transfer to the account.
You know I don't understand the word you just said? I mean, I don't understand the relevance of a word that you just said.
Because I tried to pay on the account. He forced it and said I could not.
I want to know why you don't owe him this money. What's your defense?
My defense is Mr. King lived with me for almost 3 years. He never paid me a dime.
So who cares?
It went back and forth for
What's
different
back
things
and
that I've
forth? I
gotten
don't
for it.
understand. What's back and forth?
Things that I've paid for, he said the account, if he'd left the account alone, I would have gladly paid it. He wanted me to make cash payments to him on a monthly basis. Because of his temper and other hostilities, I didn't want to have to be
Do you know that I
responsible to
don't
make
believe a
payment.
word you're telling me?
That's
not a word you're telling me.
That's fine.
I think what happened was, who broke up with whom in August?
I ended the relationship.
Well, if you ended the relationship in August, then she went on a spending spree. And she was really going to get you because she transferred the other balances to this account. She was really angry with you, Mr. King.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that's too bad. You know, things come, things go, back and forth. With that,
Actually,
you
ma'am, it
owe
was actually September 11th.
$2,719. Pay him. That's all. Step out.
Thank you.
Parties are excused.
I have no problem with that. That was easy.
Well, I'm glad to get the case resolved, and I'm glad that I won.
September
Of?
06.
According to your complaint, you believe that your son owes you for a car that you gave to him, titled in his name, but with a condition. And the condition was the car would be returned to you if and when he joined the Navy.
He told me he was already signed up for the Navy in January
Right. So that was the condition that you indicated.
to get him off of a motorcycle that he was riding rather recklessly.
Right. And you said to him, here's a car, putting it in your name. When you go into the Navy, I want you to give it back.
Right.
Did you ever go into the Navy?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Nelson, I read your whole complaint, and your whole complaint has sort of a convoluted story about certain trust that you had in your son to do the right thing. He took the car, he sold it to somebody else, then he took it back, then he sold it to another person. Bottom line is, I read your complaint very carefully, sir. And your complaint is clear. What you said in your complaint, which was you gave him this car, you transferred the title to him, is that correct? He insured the car himself, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you pay for the insurance yourself?
Yes, Your Honor.
And how long did you drive the car?
Only for a couple months, Your Honor.
Then you sold it and bought something else.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Nelson, stop playing with your papers.
Okay.
Because you're not going to understand what I'm saying to you unless you pay attention.
Gotcha.
If I believe what you say in your complaint, you made him a conditional gift. And the condition of that gift was that the car would be returned to you when he entered the Navy. But he has not entered the Navy.
Okay.
So how can you get the car back? Or the value of the car?
Okay.
Do you understand? I know that you're angry with him. I don't know exactly why. Maybe we can resolve that. But the conditional gift that you made to him it becomes a permanent gift if he never joins the Navy. Is it your intention to join the Navy?
No, Your Honor.
Why not?
I decided to keep pursuing my medical field that I am now.
And not join the Navy? Okay. Ever. When did you give him the car, Mr. Nelson, just for my own information?
September 27, 06.
And you titled it in that same month. And when did you sell the car, sir?
Down in October around.
Who'd you sell it to?
I didn't personally meet them. My stepfather actually had it in Desert Hot Springs, and he sold it for me.
To whom did you sell it?
To a private party out of Banning.
Stand up. How much did you sell it for?
Your Honor, Christopher owed me some money, so he'd gotten another vehicle. So in lieu of the money that he owed me,
What did he owe you money for?
Personal loans.
Explain it to me.
Just everyday living, helping him with insurance, paying for some of his tuitions through furthering his education in the EMS field, things of that nature.
How much did he owe you?
About $4,500. Educations are expensive.
How long have you been married to his mother?
Since July of '06.
You were divorced in September of '06. So how could you be married in July of '06?
It was a typo on the court's behalf, and we're since straightening that out in litigation.
What do you mean you're straightening that out? What does that mean?
Well, what it means is there was a typo that instead of putting a 9 when the divorce would have been finalized, it would look like a 7. So we went forward with the wedding. Come to find out later that it was a typo, so we're in litigation now at the courts to rectify that.
Why don't you just get married again?
We will, sir. Ma'am, when we're done with this. Pardon me.
May I reiterate?
Just a second. So let's assume he owed you $4,500 in the relatively short time that you've been together with his mother. How much did you sell the car for?
That exact amount.
To whom?
I don't know the name of the person. I took the car to my place of employment, placed a for sale sign in it, and 5 hours later sold the car. I don't know the name of the people. I really didn't expect this.
A man or a woman?
It was a man for his daughter.
Did you get a check or cash?
I received cash.
Do you know that I don't believe a word that's coming out of your mouth?
I'm sorry.
Do you know
I'm sorry.
that I don't really believe a word that's coming out of your mouth? Do you trust him?
I know it was true.
Well, let me tell you something. Most of what he just told me was not true.
I beg to differ, Your Honor.
Oh,
under
you
this
can do
statement,
all you can do all you like, sir, but I understand.
I just swore between God and this court to tell the truth.
Quiet. I understand why Mr. Nelson is annoyed. The truth of the matter is, he made a conditional gift, and it didn't work out the way he had assumed it was work out. He certainly wasn't giving his son a car to give to you, to give you money. And so I can understand why he's annoyed. I understand why you're annoyed, sir.
If I get a chance, I'd like to explain.
Go ahead.
First, the car was stolen from her. She has a judgment on it.
A judgment? What do you mean it was stolen from you?
He sold the car to her, not to him.
Who sold the car to her?
Christopher sold the car to her.
Which is Christopher?
Christopher.
You sold the car to this lady?
For $7,500.
I'm speaking.
No, Your Honor.
You did not.
No, Your Honor.
There's the judgment.
I'd like to explain.
Go ahead.
When I received the car, I heard from a friend that I believe Kelly was looking for a car around $5,000, $7,500 or so. And so me and her were talking and everything, but she only had about $2,500 to give me. I knew she was going through some hard time, so we made a verbal agreement that she was to have possession of the car and I was to retain ownership until final payment. After a couple of weeks, I kept getting the same response that...
How much money did she give you?
She gave me $2,500 as a down payment. And then I was still waiting on $5,000 when she went down to her security lockbox at quote-unquote Pachanga. Well, after many weeks of trying to talk to her and give me the same excuse, it wasn't until after I talked to a lawyer and a detective from the Murrieta Police Department about the legal part of it that I was in full right to go and repossess my vehicle.
What'd you do with the $2,500?
She took me to court.
And what happened with it?
I even told her that I would give her the back.
What happened with it?
I was unable to attend.
What do you mean you were unable to attend?
I had a class that I was already enrolled in to further my...
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You sold it to somebody for $7,500. He sold it to somebody for $5,700. Don't you think your father could have sold it to somebody else for $5,000?
And later today.
I told him you get some parenting classes, you do some counseling,
that
and you
has
can
nothing
come
to
back
do
in.
with the lease.
Yes, it does. It has everything to do with
Miss Lawler has nothing to do with the lease, madam.
Judge Judy. Dennis Nelson claims his adopted son, Christopher Nelson, illegally sold a Corvette he was allowing him to borrow.
Go ahead.
I have a witness in the back.
You didn't know you could have
For what?
I will testify
To what?
to whatever you want to hear.
Well, I
He'll
don't want to testify to whatever
he
I
will
want to hear.
testify to the fact that he did steal the car. He was paid in full.
Just a second. Just a second. You have a judgment against him for $7,500?
She has the judgment.
You have a judgment against him, so there's no question.
Here's the other car.
A court has already ruled on that.
On that one.
On this one.
But the other witness will testify that he did take the car.
No, I got it. He said he repossessed the car, and he couldn't go to the hearing, to the court date, because he had a class.
Okay.
And then he took the car back, and he gave it to his stepfather, who sold it, according to him, for
Here's the bill of sales on
$4,500.
there.
Can I see the bill of sale?
The ones that he can't find.
Your last name is Mater?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I have a bill of sale, sir, with your signature on it, indicating that you sold this car to Joanna
That's
for
the name.
$5,700.
I don't recall it being 57.
Well, why don't you take a look at this, sir?
Okay.
I don't remember it being that much either.
Obviously, this is a second-generated bill of sale with the price altered. I'm not a liar. I am a man of integrity. Have fun.
Listen, I don't have to get into all of this. You can sit down. I can understand why your father is angry with you. He made a gift to you. He was hoping that you would be able to use that gift and drive safely with that gift. And he didn't do it to line the pockets of anybody else, including taking care of the bills that you allegedly owed to your stepfather. He was trying to help you. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, is there any reason why you did that?
What, Your Honor?
Took a wonderful gesture and made it not wonderful anymore.
It wasn't a wonderful gesture, Your Honor.
No, it wasn't?
No, Your Honor.
Well, let me ask you this question, sir. Do you think that your father could have sold that car to somebody else? Put your hand down. Well, you sold it to somebody for $7,500. He sold it to somebody for $5,700. Don't you think your father could have sold it to somebody else for $5,000?
Yes, Your Honor.
That's an answer. Instead, he gave it to you. Write it off. Mr. Nelson, legally, I can't help you because the condition was that you get it back.
Is what it is.
You get it back if you join the Navy. Didn't join the Navy. He's not going to join the Navy. Unfortunate. Sometimes your best intentions are not necessarily.
His words were he signed up for the Navy in January.
I understand that.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you very much.
Good
Your
enough.
case is
Thank you.
dismissed. That's all. You owe him an apology.
That'll never happen.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It is what it is. Liars, cheats, and thieves. The whole family.
He can't handle the fact that he has no control.
The captain of the fire department is less than honest.
The judge tried to attack my character, which was wrong. I was truthful as much as I could remember.
He's using his position to get personal vendettas.
He's jealous that I am married to his wife and basically have taken his prized possession.
And that's employees. That's correct. I assume that would be this gentleman.
I actually am not sure.
Would that be you?
No.
Were you there June 24th?
Yes, I am the doorman.
Okay. Mr. Hamilton wasn't there. He really doesn't know what happened, but he denies, based upon, I assume, what this gentleman says, that you were, in fact, injured on that date. He doesn't deny that there was some sort of an altercation, but he says that you were not injured. What time of the evening did this incident occur?
It was around 10:30.
Who were you there with?
I was with two of my friends from college.
Either one of them here?
No, they actually did not witness the incident. They were inside using the restroom.
Why were you outside online?
I was waiting at the front of the line about to have my ID checked, and they were on their way back when this all went down.
Tell me what happened, Miss Giovanni.
I was about to have my ID checked. The next thing I remember is waking up face down with my face in the concrete. The gentleman who was standing behind me in line, who I now know to be Eric Crisp, he was not a friend of mine ahead of time. He told me that, well, he was very concerned.
That's all you remember?
Right.
You were online. The next thing you know, you were on the ground, face down.
Yes.
You were the witness?
Yes.
Just stand up, please, sir. Your last name is?
Crisp, C-R-I-S-P.
Mr. Crisp, you were online, right behind her?
I was in line with her, yes.
Tell me what you observed.
Well, I was actually, I was pretty much next to her. Saw some commotion going on inside the bar. Well, I'm not sure exactly if it was a bartender or not, but from what testimony was given to me, gentleman was picked up. I saw him coming at me.
I just want you
okay,
to
I saw
tell
him
me
coming
what
at
you saw.
Okay, I saw two men coming at me, one being picked up. I dodged out of the way. I heard a thud, and I looked back, and I saw Angie on the ground.
You didn't know her before that evening?
No, not at all.
Did you subsequently ascertain who the people were?
I did ask the doorman who that was.
This gentleman.
I'm not exactly sure if that was him or not.
Stand
I know he
up,
was.
Sir. Your last name is?
Garcia.
Mr. Garcia, who were the people involved in the altercation on the 24th of June?
There was a bartender.
Bartender's name was?
Carlson.
And what did you see Mr. Carlson do?
He was escorting a customer out of the bar that was
How was he
stealing.
escorting him out?
He had him by the arms and was forcing him out because he had stole a bottle, throwing him out.
So he was throwing him out?
Yes.
And what did you observe?
I heard the
Look at
commotion.
me.
I had heard the commotion, and I turned around and let the rope down to allow him to be thrown out, and he in turn bumped into the plaintiff, and she
As he
fell
was
back.
throwing out this patron?
Yes, and she fell back into the line, never fell onto the ground.
Where did you see her, Mr. Crisp?
On the ground. I was standing in front of her, so there's no, she would have fallen into me because it's a real tight quarters. It's very tight quarters. And then there was a long line maybe of 50, 60 people.
Mr. Garcia?
Yes.
Did you ever meet Mr. Crisp before?
No, ma'am.
Has he ever been to the bar before?
Not that I know of.
What do you do for a living, Mr. Crisp?
I work as a senior finance analyst for a law firm.
How long have you worked for the law firm?
Approximately a year.
Graduate from college?
I did.
Professional school?
Yes, Cal State Fullerton.
Mr. Garcia?
Yes.
You think of any reason why Mr. Crisp, who is unknown to the plaintiff, would not only testify falsely, sir, but take time to come to court to testify on her behalf, that he turned around and saw her on the ground, Mr. Garcia?
When she...
I can understand why you might say she never fell on the ground.
Why?
Why?
Yeah,
because
why?
he's your employee, Mr. Hamilton. That's why.
I asked him
I've
to
been there
tell
for
me
8 years. I've never
honest,
had a
we
problem.
have insurance for...
Mr. Hamilton,
Yes.
then I will ask you the question, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Crisp, let me
Well,
back
he's a
up.
lawyer. Maybe
Let
he's
me
trying
back
to
up.
drum up business.
Let me back up a second. Well, that's the most
I can
ridiculous thing. If you're
explain.
going to be a wise guy, Mr. Hamilton, I'm going to fight for the plaintiff and throw you out. So don't be a wise guy. Now, it's my job, and I've been doing it for a very long time, to test the veracity of people's statements, whether or not they are telling me the truth. And there's no question that Mr. Crisp is telling me the truth as far as these facts, that prior to June 24th, 2006, he was unknown to the plaintiff, and she unknown to him. Has she retained your law firm to sue anyone?
Not at all. We're not personal injury.
He has no particular... Put your hand down, unless you want to modify your statement.
Yes, I do.
Fine. Then modify your statement, Mr. Garcia.
When she fell back into the crowd, the people that frequent the bar, young, 21, 22 years old, were saying, oh, sue the bar, sue the bar. Everybody thinks that that's funny. Oh, sue the bar.
And
that's what everybody was saying, and I had to calm them down.
I'm not talking about that, Mr. Garcia. I'm talking about her being on the ground.
Okay. She wasn't on the ground, but
Oh, I think she was. I absolutely think she was.
there would be no way for her to fall onto the ground because everyone was so close.
I can't think of a reason why Mr. Crisp would lie to me. I can't think of a reason.
I've been there 8 years. I run a very, very tight ship.
Well, then you...
I'm very infamous
Then
for
you,
being-
Mr. Garcia,
for
have
being
an
abrupt with
absolute
people.
reason to tell me that you didn't see her on the ground.
I saw her fall back, but not
Fine.
face down on the ground.
You saw her fall back.
Into a crowd of people.
I'm speaking, and she fell back as a result of being pushed, not intentionally, I assume, but pushed by the actions of Mr. Hamilton's employee in ejecting a patron.
Yes.
Would that be a fair statement?
Yes, that would.
May I see the medical records you have, please?
Would it be Mr. Hamilton's employees or Malarkey's Irish Pub's employees?
It doesn't make any difference, sir.
Does it?
No.
I mean, she's suing me personally. I am an officer of the corporation. It's owned by a corporation.
I actually put both on
Just
the
a second.
original case.
Did you accept service? Did you accept service, Mr. Hamilton?
I was never personally served. Something was mailed to me.
And
Is
you're
that
here.
accepting?
And you're here.
Yes, I am here.
And you did not have an attorney put in an answer to the court indicating that the court had no jurisdiction because the corporation wasn't served.
Well, she probably just would have refiled it again, so why not get it over
Then
with?
why raise it now? Then why raise it now?
Because
Good.
as additional complaint is Malarkey's, I just want to make sure that Bill Hamilton isn't responsible, because I am not Malarkey's, I'm an individual.
You are here, sir, neither you nor an attorney on behalf of a company in which I assume you are the primary shareholder?
No, that's not correct.
Who is?
My father.
How old is he?
83.
When was the last time he was in the business?
He retired about 8 years ago.
Good. I wonder how on the 24th of June, Mr. Garcia, and I'm not talking about her complaint of a head contusion, but that the examining emergency room doctor found that she had facial abrasions.
I invited her into the bar after it happened.
Yes.
To buy her a drink, and she walked in and came back out a few minutes later.
Yes.
She could have gone to another bar.
Mr. Garcia invited me in to offer me free drinks for the night, I believe is a way to buy me off.
No, it's not a way to buy you off.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
It was the patron we escorted out that hit Angie.
Mr. Hamilton, that's like saying that it was the bullet that hit the victim, not the gun that caused the bullet to hit the victim.
And later today.
And how old was he when they started to live together?
Probably 19.
And she was?
17.
Don't do anything so stupid again, will you please?
Oh, God, I know.
Angelina Giovannini says bar manager Bill Hamilton should pay for her medical bills. Angelina says one of Bill's employees knocked her to the ground during a scuffle with a patron.
Yes, sir.
I was the one that actually recommended that Angie's friends take her to the emergency room because of the thud that I heard on the ground resulting from that.
And the fact
it was not a simple push. It was more of a tackle, get a guy out of a bar very inappropriately in my eyes. I couldn't believe it myself.
There was a 2.2 by 2 centimeter contusion on the front of her forehead, Mr. Hamilton, according to the emergency room doctor, is relayed in the diagram from the emergency room.
That was never submitted to me.
Well, I'm going to show it to you, sir.
No, I'll believe you. Shh. All I'm saying is that was never submitted to me.
Well, but I'm showing this to you. Don't you want to see it?
Not really. If you say it's there, it's there.
Hospital room technicians finds a hematoma to the forehead. Hematoma noted on the upper right forehead. What happened to the bartender?
He went inside and continued working.
Is he still there?
Yes.
Why isn't he here today? He's a witness under your control, Mr. Hamilton. Why isn't he here today?
Because Richard, I asked him to come.
Why didn't you have both of them come?
I'm
not speaking to you.
I thought one person would be adequate.
Well, but you brought then the person who, A, was not directly involved with the confrontation, and B, whose responsibility it was at the door to maintain order. Isn't that your job, sir?
That is correct.
How many people on the line?
Maybe 50 to 60.
And there was a commotion inside the bar.
Yes.
Is that correct? So your primary responsibility is to maintain order.
Yes.
Right. So I would have, Mr. Hamilton, have thought that you would have brought the person whose primary focus was what was going on at that very moment in ejecting someone and who had direct physical contact with the plaintiff. Not somebody whose direction was 50 or 60 people standing on the line, a commotion inside the bar, and then something that happened outside of the bar. It's just interesting to me.
Now, Richard works at the door. The door is a very small area. There may be 50 people in line, but he's not walking down the line normally. From my understanding, it was the patron we escorted out that hit Angie.
In the process of escorting him.
Well, you know, that's like saying,
well, I'm not saying
Mr. Hamilton, that's like saying that it was the bullet that hit the victim, not the gun that caused the bullet to hit the victim. This, you know, your bartender was ejecting, according to your witness, was ejecting by holding on to both arms, throwing someone out of the bar for
but
stealing.
I would assume Richard would have had a better look at what happened.
Yeah, I wouldn't have assumed anything. I would have brought them both. Okay, you have medical bills?
Yes.
I'd like to see them. Did you have insurance?
At the time, my insurance was a little complicated. I was starting a new job, so...
Did your insurance cover this?
The insurance covered a small portion of it. I have the credit card statement for what I covered.
Well, you can tell me. How much did you cover?
$1,364.17. And since it went on my credit card, I also have copies of all the finance charges. Included in that is a collections notice that I received because Mr. Hamilton had accepted responsibility for the incident and explained to me that because of renovations he had just done to his bar, that he would be sending it to his insurance and taking care of it. At that time, I faxed all of this information to him, including the bills, and was under the impression that was in January.
January of 2007?
Yes, when I finally got a hold of him. It took a while to get through the bar to actually get his cell phone number.
Did you receive the faxed information from her, sir?
January. Well, I received a letter from her January 9th.
Did you receive the faxed information, her bills, etc.?
Yes, I did.
What did you do with them?
I have a file where I put them in.
You didn't send them to your insurance company?
No, I didn't.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000. You didn't handle this well, Mr. Hamilton. Goodbye. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
When I got the medical bills, it was the first time I tried to contact him.
I was surprised it took her 6 months.
Everyone at the bar wouldn't let me through to him, basically.
When she sent the letter, I wasn't available.
Until I finally got his cell phone number and was able to badger him enough to get him to talk to me.
Tired of getting taken advantage of every time somebody stubs a toe.
I originally only asked for compensation for my medical bills.
They want to sue a big company or a little company or sue somebody.
The rest is for his negligence.
All parties in the matter of Mimsgrave versus Gilmore. Step forward.
19-year-old Brittany Mimsgrave is suing her former friend, Samantha Gilmore, for the return of money she paid to go on a cruise. Samantha says Brittany backed out at the last minute.
Miss Mimsgrave.
Yes.
Miss Gilmore was a friend of yours. You had been friends for a long time, according to what I read in your complaint. A group of girls decided to go on a trip. Where were you going?
We were going on a Mexican cruise.
For how many days?
A week.
And what was the cost to each girl?
It was $325 each.
Very reasonable for a whole week.
Yes.
Did they feed you on this trip for $325 for a week?
I actually don't know. I didn't go.
Do they feed you?
Yes, they do.
In any event, you paid Miss Gilmore your $325.
Yes.
She was making the arrangements. How old are you?
I'm 19.
And you?
19.
Am I correct that someone in the party had to be 21 in order for the girls to go?
Yes.
What you tell me in your complaint is that one of the girls, I believe her name was Ashley, was the 21-year-old, she backed out.
Yes.
So now you have a predicament. You've paid your $325, as have other girls, and unless you found someone else who was 21 years old, you couldn't go.
Yes.
So according to you, you waited for a while to see if somebody else was going to go and somebody else was going to go, and nothing happened, so you made other plans for that period of time. That's what you say. And according to you, Miss Gilmore decided to take her brother.
Yes, well, actually...
Decided to take her brother. He was going to pay for himself. And his brother had a friend whose name was?
Gaius.
Gaius?
Gaius Mike. He goes by Mike.
Good. His name was Mike. Mike went on your ticket.
Yes.
And you want the money.
Yes.
Didn't Mike pay?
No.
Why not?
Because we had made oral agreement that Mike was going to pay after the cruise, but Brittany showed up at my house the day before. We left saying that she wanted it then.
Just a minute. Who did Mike make the arrangement with? With you?
With me. He made with me and she made with me.
Just a second. So Mike made the arrangement with you that he was going to pay for the trip.
Yes.
And you told her that Mike was paying for the trip. That was your agreement with him.
Yes.
Now she's suing you because you told her you're going to get your money for this ticket. That's what you told her.
Yes.
Go get the money from Mike. She has no way of suing him because they did not have an agreement. The agreement was you have a cause of action against him if he breached that agreement and didn't give you the money.
Yes, but since she had come to my house saying that she wanted the money earlier than she had expected, I figured if she felt that she needed the money before, even though he wasn't able to provide it for her, she should have called the travel agent herself and said that, because what she said was she wanted her ticket or the money.
Madam.
Ma'am.
She could have done this and she would have done that, and if she did this, she wouldn't have been in that chair. She had an agreement with you. And the agreement was you were going to give her back her money because your brother and his friend were going on this trip with you. And if the friend stiffed you, sue him. He went, he had a good time. I assume he ate, right? Well, I'm sure his company wasn't that terrific that entitled him to a free ride, right? Right, Mr. Gilmore? You wouldn't give him a free ride.
Ma'am, she canceled out at the very last minute.
Are you following me? Your daughter made an agreement with her that she would get her money back. She has to do that. Now, since she did not gain anything herself, perhaps, unless she likes Mike, she has an absolute right to turn around and sue Mike for the cost of the ticket because he promised to pay her, and he didn't. She may have had a lot of other options. She doesn't have to exercise all those other options. She had an agreement with your daughter. Do you get it?
Yes.
Good. Now, you have a counterclaim for harassment and the expenses surrounding harassment. Ms. Gilmore, you want to tell me about that?
Yes, when she had decided 4 days we had agreed that Mike was going to take her place. We had made the agreement that he was going to pay after, and she kept constantly calling saying that she wanted the money earlier, and I told her that I didn't have it and that Mike hadn't given it to me, and she kept calling me, harassing me, and showing up. She showed up at my house the day before saying she wanted the money or the ticket, and the option was that she could call the travel agent and say that she wanted her place back because I didn't have the money. So she was constantly calling me, and then after she had left our house, she had called our mutual friend who also went, inquiring about my car, wondering where my car was going to be where we were on the cruise, and I just bought a brand new car, so I was wondering why she wanted to know where my car was.
Just a second, how do you know Brittany called your friend?
My friend, the one who went on the cruise, told me.
Well, you can't tell me that, madam, that's hearsay.
Okay.
What else?
So, but basically she had called me constantly, leaving me messages, called me when I was at work.
That's what happens when she feels as if you were stiffing her money. That's not a cause of action for harassment. You have to give her the $325, and I suggest that you and your father, when you leave here, you go to small claims court and you sue Mike for the trip that he took, that he enjoyed, that so far he didn't pay for. Right?
Right.
As between the two of you, you owe her $325. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She is getting the money, but hopefully she'll understand that it's from Mike.
I think it's very unfortunate that it had to end like this.
And not me, and that it wasn't worth the friendship, and it wasn't worth going to court over.
I mean, if someone's going to try and ruin a friendship over...
Parties, and there were complaints on at least 4 occasions, and ultimately they were either going to terminate her proprietary lease on the condo unless she got rid of your daughter, but you moved out. Yes. Your father gave her an extra month's rent and said goodbye. Unfortunately, because of your actions, Miss Irani was charged money for violating the noise ordinances of the condo. She tried to fight them. Your tenancy ended up costing her how much?
Okay, I paid $942.50 for my attorney, and then there is a paper for all the details of all the charges, which is $4,921.
Okay, Miss Irani had to pay as a result of dog fines, police being called to the house for loud noises and parties, because you, Mr. Ottenstreier, had full confidence in your daughter's ability to live on her own, act responsibly, and you were wrong. Your defense is, that wasn't in my contract.
Correct.
Convince me better, sir.
Well, in the contract itself, there is no statement of the $400 fine for police calls. There is a part that says about noise, that type of thing. That's not specified in there.
What does it say about noise, that you're not allowed to make noise?
Well, it says be quiet in the hall and this type of thing, keep your stereos down. And then it says see attachment. There's no attachment.
Did you ask about the attachment?
No.
What do you do for a living?
Optometrist.
Do you have your own business?
Yes.
Do you rent space, or do you own the building where you have your...
Now we rent.
When you signed a lease, did you have a lawyer?
Yes.
So you do know about lawyers?
Yes.
And if something says see attachment and there's no attachment, what do you do?
Well, to me, it's void. I mean, if it's not in there...
I didn't ask you what it means.
Oh.
I said, what do you do when it says see attached? You say, where is the attachment?
I looked for attachment, didn't see it.
So why didn't you call her?
I assumed that she wasn't concerned about it, I guess.
I'm concerned about it.
Yeah.
What's next, Mr. Ottenstreier?
Well, the next thing is that we renewed the lease. At the renewal of the lease, she never said anything about us owing money, and there were 3 police calls before that.
When did you renew the lease?
On 6/20/06, a year after, and there were 3 police calls before that.
Let me ask you a question. Had you been contacted about those 3 police calls?
I still never received a bill.
Did your daughter tell you that there were 3 police calls?
She called me each time after the police were called.
That's not my question. I said, did your daughter tell you about the 3 police calls?
Yes.
What did she tell you?
Told me that she had a party and that there were police calls. The police were called and they ticketed her.
What did you say to her?
Don't have any more parties. Quit having the parties.
Just a second. Did you say to her after the first time, don't have any more parties?
Sure.
Did you say it to her after the second time?
Sure.
Did you say it to her after the third time?
Yes.
And when you renewed the lease, did you co-sign the lease despite the fact that she had disobeyed your instructions?
Yes.
Now it would seem to me, Mr. Ottenstreier, that you would not be as trusting and as confident in your daughter to do the right thing. So why would you co-sign the lease for her?
Well, there have been 6 months went by with no police calls, and you hope your child is going to take the right road. They make mistakes, but you keep hoping they're going to make the right choice.
And what about the dog, sir?
Dog was there temporarily as a friend's dog that stayed there. She didn't have it as a pet.
The dog was there about 3 weeks, not even.
Temporarily is not 3 weeks. Temporarily is when somebody comes over to visit you and they bring their dog. Why should she be out all this money? If I have to make a judgment as to who's got to be out this $5,000, who do you think it's going to be? The person who made the noise or the person who had to pay the fines?
Well, we do have papers that say that she's responsible for, well...
For any fines that are charged to the tenants that she's responsible for.
Of course, as between she and the condo association, she's responsible.
So that's
I'm speaking. The condo association doesn't want to have to go looking for you. I mean, I can't believe that you actually are a professional man. The condo says, as between you, owner, and the board, you, owner, are responsible for the fines. That doesn't prevent her from going after you because you're the one that made the noise. You're the one that brought the dogs in, something that you knew. You knew it when you signed the lease the second time. You knew she had violated the rules. Could have said to her at that time, listen, you violated my trust. You come home. Come home. I'm not co-signing for you. You didn't listen to me the first time. You didn't listen to me the second time. Unless you didn't want her home, sir, because she created too much trouble at home, which is another problem.
Doesn't Giddy, when she knew taking responsibility, should have told us at that time that there were fines at that point?
They probably didn't come after her for those fines until after she left.
Yes, they did.
Before she renewed the lease?
Yes.
When did you renew the lease, sir?
6/20/06.
Actually, it's July 2007.
And when were you first notified of any fine? Because clearly, if you were notified of fines before you renewed the lease, I am not considering any fines before you renewed the lease. Afterwards, maybe. But then you're on notice.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Your Honor, I have her email what she told me. She
I don't
said
care
that
what she told
didn't
you.
do
I don't care if she
anything
told you
wrong.
that the sky was green. Listen to me very carefully.
I believed her.
I don't care whether you believed her.
And later today,
This is all getting too unseemly for me. Mr. Lanza, you've had possibly...
Real People, Judge Judy. Giddy Irani claims former tenant Holly Ottenstreier threw wild parties in her rental condo. She is suing for association fines and legal fees.
Okay, now when were you notified of the fines?
Actually, after she had the police call, they sent me a letter and I discussed it with her. I said, there is fine, you cannot go on living like this.
When did you have this conversation with her? Before
After
or...
the first call, after the first police call.
Well, the first police call was in 2005.
Yes.
When were you notified by the condo association of the fines, is my question.
Maybe in a month or so.
Month after 2005?
Yes.
Well, then you should not have renewed her lease.
Your Honor, she was telling me that the neighbors are bothering her. The property manager who was telling me that she had loud noise, he was fired.
Ms.
And I
Irani.
did not have the police reports. As soon as I had the police report, I talked to her father.
Ms. Irani, how much were you renting the apartment to her for?
$550 and then $640 later on because she asked for the carpet to be changed.
All of these things were done prior to you executing a new lease. You said July of 2006 is when you entered into a new lease. And there was nothing after that.
Because she was out in September.
No, listen to me very carefully. You have a police call August of 05, another one August of 05. There were dog fines in October of 05. There's another dog fine in November of 05. I don't know what this means, non-eviction. What does that mean?
Because they were asking me to ask her to leave, and she was saying that they are so unfair to her.
Oh, no. That's your problem, Miss Irani. I'm sorry. I was very heavy on them, and rightly so. But you're a grown-up. You should not have renewed their lease.
Your Honor, I have two teenagers that I fully trust. I believed her, and that I did not believe the property manager.
I would have brought eviction proceedings against her immediately. Immediately. They asked you to evict her in October of 2005.
But, Your Honor,
and instead of evicting her, you renewed a lease in July.
Your Honor, I have her email, what she told me. She
I don't
said
care
that
what she told
didn't
you.
do
I don't care if she
anything
told you
wrong.
that the sky was green. Listen to me very carefully.
I believed her.
I don't care whether you believed her. It's not relevant to me. It's not relevant whether you believed her. You were told by your condo association to evict her in 2005. Instead of evicting her, what you did was you renewed her lease in 2006.
But, Your Honor, they never provided any evidence, anything.
They don't have to provide you with evidence, madam.
I asked for.
They don't have to provide you with evidence. She's not going to pay you because it was your responsibility to evict her. not to sign on a new lease. There are other people that live there. They were forced to live with her, making a lot of noise and having a dog when they weren't supposed to. They asked you to evict her. You're the owner of the condo, and you said, no, I'm not going to do it.
Your Honor, I called her parents and I told her mother about the dog. And she said she's just doing it for 1 weekend and it's going to be gone. She told me that the police came because there was an ambulance. She was not feeling good. She was not doing that.
Listen, they came 5 times. She was a very sick girl. It's your problem, and it's your fault. You should never, never have renewed the lease with them. Never.
Your Honor, I received the police report in August, and I talked to her parents right away after I saw the police report. I made an appointment with them. I saw them, and I said, this is
You
horrible.
should have evicted her, and you didn't. You should have
Because I
evicted her.
believed her.
Well, that's your problem, madam. I believe that you believed her. I believe that you also like the rent. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I didn't think that she was lying, but I guess I learned my lesson.
I feel sorry for Katie because she did trust my daughter.
She had underage drinking. She had marijuana in the home.
One of my friends was caught with marijuana in my apartment, and I should have known that he had it, but I didn't.
I trusted her.
One of the tickets was for me and 2 friends that were sitting on the couch talking, and the police gave me a ticket for that.
I'll be more careful with younger people.
They got to go out in the world sometime, and they don't always make the right choices, but you trust them and you hope.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Benavente versus Lanza, step forward, please.
21-year-old Monique Benavente is suing the father of her child, 24-year-old Carlos Lanza, for 2 truck payments. Carlos says Monique offered to help him out.
How old are you, Miss Benavente?
21.
How old are you, Mr. Lanza?
24.
2 of you have a child together.
Correct.
How old is that child?
5 months, 2 weeks.
Is that your only child?
Yes, ma'am.
What about you, Mr. Lanza?
Yes.
Your only child?
Excuse me?
What?
He told me he had another son.
You have another child?
No, ma'am.
Did you ever tell you had another child?
I did.
Why?
I thought I had a child with the girl that pregnancy test never came back and said it was mine. So it wasn't, shouldn't have told her something like that because it wasn't irrelevant.
That's not what he told me.
This is all getting too unseemly for me. Mr. Lanza, you're 24 years old.
Yes, ma'am.
You've had maybe 1, possibly 2 out-of-wedlock children. That's enough.
He also told me that he was 27.
Well, he gets confused. In any event, you should have been smart enough to use some birth control so that we wouldn't be here involved. And who is this lady?
My mother.
How many children in your family?
There's 4 altogether.
Are you the oldest, the youngest, or in the middle?
In the middle.
All the other children live home?
No, ma'am.
You think your mother signed on to take care of a new baby?
No.
You live at home?
Yes, ma'am.
Look at it this way. It might keep you young. Then again, it might not. In addition to making a mistake of having a child with him, you gave him 2 truck payments because he was behind in his truck payments. A truck that is in his mother's name. In your mother's name?
Yes, ma'am.
You're very polite. Did you ask her so politely when you needed the truck payments?
I got behind. The work was slow, and she was getting a check from a settlement from a car accident she was in a couple years ago, and it was our only vehicle that we had at the time.
That's
And
not true.
I was driving her everywhere, from San Jose to Modesto to her doctor appointments, shopping, all that stuff. And I
Where
had
were you
fallen
living?
behind. Excuse me?
Where were you living?
San Jose.
With her?
Yes.
Just the 2 of you?
No, we were in a cousin's house.
Whose cousin?
My cousin.
And?
And after that, we moved in with my dad because I was working with him, general contractor. And, work was too slow. And she offered to help me pay the truck payments. That way we wouldn't lose. I wasn't working at the time because her back and being pregnant, she couldn't be at a salon for 10 hours,
That's not true.
Don't interrupt him again. How long did you live together where you supported her?
Maybe 9 months.
How long did you live together when you were not working, Miss Benavente?
Around 9 months, off and on.
And he was supporting you?
No, ma'am. I worked, I did hair, and I paid some of our bills. I paid for a lot of our food, and I did support him in finding a job, paying his gas money that he would use for other things that I found out later.
And what did he pay for?
He paid for some of what I just said. He paid for some of the food, some of the Macy's
What
bills.
did you pay for, Mr. Lanza?
Actually, I got her the phone. It was a T-Mobile phone. I was paying the monthly payments. I bought her food, I bought her clothes, I bought her shoes. Anything she needed, I got it. When I was working in a contract, I would actually leave work.
Doesn't anybody pay rent?
Yeah, I was paying rent, of course. I was paying.
Where were you paying the rent?
I was paying my cousin $500 a month.
Is that right?
No, we got kicked out of his cousin's because he wasn't paying rent.
I did pay. The whole situation was that we were there for almost 4 months. On the third month, I spoke to my cousin, look, man, my work has slowed down. I could give you $250 now and then $250 towards the end of the month. He said, well, you know what? I'm behind too. I just lost my job, so you have to do something. I said, well, I don't want to owe you money. So I told him, you know what? We could just leave. I'll just go and...
I got it. Now, Ms. Benavente, why don't you tell me how it came about that you made these 2 truck payments? You were pregnant.
I was pregnant.
And you only had 1 car at the time.
No, that's not true.
Oh, yes, it is.
Okay, fine.
And you had 1 car at the time. And he was driving you to and from your medical appointments?
Sometimes.
Listen, unless you're stuck in his cousin's house or in his father's house, then wherever you had to go, somebody was taking you.
I was stuck there. My mom would pick me up. He would drop me off at my mom's house, and she would take me to my appointments, and sometimes he would meet us there.
So he would drop you off at your mother's house. I mean, at first you lied to me and said to me that you had 2 cars. Now you're telling me that he would drop you off at your mother's house so she could take you to the appointments. Let me hear about the 2 truck payments, Miss Benavente.
Okay, so he couldn't hold a job, and he asked me to borrow them. He agreed to pay me back, and I believed him.
No. Tell me what he said to you. Where were you? Where was he? Tell me about it.
We were at his dad's house, and he asked me, he said, look, I can't work unless I have a car. It's going to get repossessed. My mom's credit's going to get ruined. Can you please help me out? And he said, I promise I will pay you back when I get a job. When he got a job, he never paid me back.
Did you tell her you would pay her back?
No, ma'am. The whole thing about us living together means, I mean, I would think when you...
No, don't tell me what you think.
Anyways,
tell me what was said.
I need these truck payments because if not, we're going to lose the only vehicle. So she said, fine. We made the payments and everything was fine.
In what month did you make the payments?
It was either late December, early January.
And when did the 2 of you separate?
June.
In June?
Yes, ma'am.
Between January and June, did he pay for the truck?
He didn't pay me anything.
And you lived together?
Yes.
And it was after you separated that you sued him, is that right?
Yes, but I continuously asked him to please pay me back.
You were living together as a couple, madam, at the time that he made these 2 truck payments. He was paying rent, he was paying bills, and I assume that you were working marginally before your baby was born, if at all, at least in the last 3 months. Somebody had to support you. Somebody had to be paying the bills. That was not you, and it was not your mother. And I'm quick to note that you and the defendant were not living with your mother, but you were living with the defendant in his cousin's house or in his father's house. Put your hand down. You weren't there. And it doesn't make sense to me that living in that kind of situation, expecting a baby, and living as a couple, he would say to you, could you loan me this money and I will pay you back, when he was in fact supporting you. Your case is dismissed, that's all.
Parties are excused, you may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He was cheating on me, and he's piggy bank, about $300 to $500.
I put money in that piggy bank.
I walked in on him stealing it. His hands were like this.
Yeah, I was putting money in the piggy bank for my son.
He doesn't pay child support. He doesn't do anything for our son.
I haven't seen my son the past 4 months because the only way is to go to her mom's house, and that's not okay with me.
Well, we'll see him in court.
My family loves my son too, and we're gonna fight. We're gonna get this going.
We had many talks in reference to jobs, holding a job, showing interest in getting a job. We'd sit and have coffee and talk.
Her mom's really controlling. She wants to be in control of everything and wants to put a lot of things in her daughter's mind.
This is really unbelievable.
Do not date him. He's a liar and he's a sociopath.
The one who's crazy is really her because she had a good guy.
I don't want anything to do with it.
Jessica Eveler says her half-sister, Melanie Zampino, stole furniture during tenancy in her home. Jessica claims she kicked Melanie out because she was using drugs.
Miss Eveler, the defendant is your half-sister, and according to what I read, you only recently, in the last few years, had a relationship with each other.
Yes.
According to your complaint, you rented a home that you own to your sister with the understanding that she would have an option to buy it after she paid rent for a while.
Yes.
Subsequently, within a relatively short period of time after she moved in, you evicted her. But your lawsuit wants your furniture back. And you say when you left some furniture in the basement that was yours. You allowed her to use some furniture. But when she moved out, she took your things. The defendant says that you gave her a living room set, that the bedroom furniture that you claim you want back was actually repossessed by the company that you had rented it from, so she doesn't have that. And she is counterclaiming because she says that because of your precipitous behavior, which was not warranted by anything she did. She was forced to move. She had moving expenses. She was forced to move very quickly, and she wants to be compensated for that and all of her emotional distress. When did you lease her your house?
It was in July.
And when did you evict her?
I gave her notice September 10th.
Had she paid rent in August?
Yes.
Had she paid rent in September?
No.
Why did you evict her?
There was drug usage going on, and I only agreed to 4 people living in the house.
How did you know there was drug use going on in the house?
August 24th, my uncle came there, and they smoked it right in front of him.
Smoked what?
Pot.
Who did?
Melanie and a guy named by the name of Brandon.
You agreed, you said, for 4 people to live in the house?
Yes.
Who were the 4 people?
Her, Christina New Church, which is right over there, and they're...
Is this a friend?
It's my roommate. We've lived together for 9 years.
Okay.
And they have each 1 child.
How many people were living there?
Between 7 and 8.
Who else was living there?
I got 2 people that were not even residing there, a piece of mail of theirs.
Can I see?
Mm-hmm.
Who's Brandon?
My cousin. He did not live there. He stayed there occasionally during the week because Christina works 3rd shift, and he tended the kids. I did pay him.
Where did he live otherwise?
He lived with his father.
Was Joseph?
My husband. Some of my utilities were in his name. My husband and I have been separated for...
Tell me about the furniture.
We did have a verbal agreement about the living room set. If she purchased the home, it would be added in with the cost of the house. However, she didn't buy the house, so the furniture didn't come with the house. And I did try to call her.
Go ahead. Let's deal with the living room furniture first.
Okay. When we discussed the house, she said to me, you can have my washer and dryer, you can have my living room set, you can have the bedroom set if you pay the last $150 to Color Time where she was renting her bedroom set from. I said, I have an antique set, I don't want the bedroom set, but I will take the living room set because mine is used. The living room set was stained with marker. One of her children must have wrote on it. Her husband works on cars. There's massive grease marks on the one where he must have sat regularly, which I have all pictures to show. She gave me the living room set. She never said if you purchase the home or if we don't come back, because when she actually on September 10th asked me to move out, she told me it was because her grandmother threw her out of the house that she was staying in South Carolina. I do not use drugs, and I'm
Can I see a picture of this living room set that she wants back?
Of just the living room set in question?
Mm-hmm.
Because I did bring pictures of my old living room set just to show you why I would switch.
You're talking about the sofas and the end tables as well?
And the coffee table. And I did attempt to take pictures of the markings.
Well, when I left, there might have been a little bit of, like, grease stains, but there was no marker on my living room set. It was only...
When did you purchase it?
February of 2 years ago.
You have a receipt for it?
Mm-hmm.
Can I see it, please? And who lived in the house with you?
My husband and my 2 children.
How old are your children?
1 and 2.
This doesn't tell me when you purchased it. Take that, please, Bud. Return that to her. I don't know what this furniture looked like when you left, but certainly a month later, it looks pretty used and pretty abused to me. And when you have 2 young children, that's what furniture like this looks like. Certainly not worth much. You'd have to pay somebody to take it out. You would. You'd have to pay somebody to take out these 2 sofas. What's next? What about the bedroom's furniture?
I purchased that, and I actually have the original bill. And when I got into my house in late September, I came to clean it up and stuff. The bed was set up, but it was sliced. The bed was set up in the basement like someone had been sleeping there.
So what are you talking about, just the mattress?
The mattress and the headboard was damaged, and I have pictures of that.
Who slept on the mattress?
When we lived there, me and my husband.
When I lived there, no one. I had my own set.
Fine. Did you slice the mattress?
I did not. I also have a letter from Color Time stating that they repossessed her bedroom furniture that she left in the basement.
We're not talking about that. We're talking about the mattress.
Oh.
And they took the dressers, by the way, because I had asked them to take the dressers.
We're not talking about a whole bunch of money. I mean, we're certainly not talking about $3,500. Maybe we're talking about $100. I'm just trying to figure out why we're all here.
I'd like to make a statement on that.
Go ahead.
Judge Judy, because I feel that we're here for the same reason that Jessica, the only time she ever interacts with me is when there's trouble to be made. When she needs something, she'll call me. When she needs a babysitter, she'll call me. I actually paid money to find her because I wanted to know my sister. And the only thing that's coming out of this, no matter how you look at it, is a destroyed relationship.
That's unfortunate. When did she tell you to move?
September 10th.
And when did you move?
She gave me until September 28th when she started calling the law and having her stepfather threaten to put me out the quote-unquote old-fashioned way.
Did anything happen September 10th that precipitated this?
No.
I basically had coming back to Pennsylvania. My grandma her name's on the house also, so she had a decision to make, and she made that.
That doesn't give me an answer. That's a lot of double talk. You were coming back to live there, is that right?
Yes.
All right, so you were coming back to live there, so you told her to move.
Yes, well, the drug usage was the reason why.
No, no, because if the drug usage was the reason why, you would have told her to move on August 24th or August 25th. You didn't. Or the 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. You told her to move on September 10th because you had to come back to your house. So stop making up excuses. You get it?
Yes.
And you had a responsibility to give her 30 days notice. You didn't do that.
In that town, you only have to legally give 10 days.
Because you're not allowed to legally rent without a renter's permit, and she didn't have one.
Not nice. Okay. So you get nothing. Not even the $100 that maybe your mattress is worth if it was destroyed, and maybe your coffee tables were worth. Because what you did was the wrong thing, because they're living there with, let's say, 4 people, including 2 children. 2 children who by September 10th have started school, have settled in, and because you can't live where you were going to live and had to come home, you told them to move and gave them what I consider no notice. Not even the right thing to do to a stranger, but to do to somebody who's related to you? Outrageous. Now, where did you move?
I live in Dover. I'd like not to say exactly where because
Fine. Did you pay her September's rent?
I did. I have that here.
Can I see it, please?
Then she didn't pay August. She paid 1 month.
How many months' rent did you pay?
I only paid September because when she moved, I was supposed to move in September 1st. When she moved, she had gone down to South Carolina and came back. There was some, flooding. People were messing around with her house. She said, Melanie, please just move in as soon as possible. I had to clean up as well.
Just a second. When did you move in?
Mid-July.
Well, then you should have paid 2 months' rent. You only paid 1. You saved a little bit of money so that you had enough money to put down on another apartment. I'm gonna entertain.
Yes, the only problem that I had was just finding something. We moved, we
And you
lived
found
just fine.
something?
Yes.
That's good.
Can I say something, Matt? The electric and gas was shut off September 22nd. When my grandfather went the 26th, everything was moldy, the freezer, everything. So they were out for a while.
Listen to me very carefully. You did the wrong thing. You wanted to move back to your house. You wanted her out. It had nothing to do with drugs or other people living there. It had to do with you coming home because you had no place else to live. So I don't know why you're suing her, because the truth of the matter is, if you hadn't brought this lawsuit, she wouldn't have counterclaimed. She was willing to forget it.
Yes, I redid
Forget
an
it.
entire
It's over.
room.
It's over. You did the wrong thing. You owe an apology, not a lawsuit. Case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
9-year-old Bethany Tolbert called her foul names and split her head open with a telephone. Bethany claims it was an accident.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 184 on the calendar in the matter of Keeman versus Tolbert.
Thank you, Bird.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Have a seat, sir. Ma'am, have a seat.
According to these papers, Ms. Keeman, the defendant, this young lady, assaulted you at a fast food restaurant where you are a manager and she was an employee.
Correct.
When did this happen?
On December the 26th, approximately 8 p.m. in Cincinnati, Ohio, on Vine Street.
How long had you been working at this restaurant?
I was a substitute manager, but I had worked there maybe 3 or 4 times. My main home as a manager was in Tri-County.
And how long have you been working for this establishment?
2 years, 3 years approximately.
And what kind of work did you do there?
I was just on a register.
You mean you were a cashier?
Uh-huh.
How long had you been working there?
I had worked there for about 3 months, and then I was on a leave. I didn't work for about a month, and then I had just came back. It was my 3rd day back.
3rd day?
Mm-hmm.
Had you met her before?
No.
So, Ms. Keeman, would you tell me what happened on this day in December?
On December the 26th, I was a substitute manager at Hardee's Restaurant, and we always have a main duty of working on the cash register and secondary duties, sweep the floor, get iced tea ready, and such priorities. I had given her task to do, and she was on the phone. Beth Tolbert.
You're her mother?
Yes, I'm her mother. And I gave Beth Tolbert her duties, and she was on the phone. I came back a little bit later after cleaning the restrooms and doing some of her chores, and she was still on the phone. And I repeated that she must get off the phone. I thought maybe I'll give her a break because I'm a benevolent manager. And I gave her another chance to please do her duties and get off the phone. She stated she wanted to call her mother, but I don't know who she called. And there was a lot of profanity and a great deal of yelling on front line. As a manager...
Okay, so let me stop you right there. Yelling and profanity by whom?
Beth Tolbert.
And who was she yelling at?
Somebody on the telephone telling them what a mean vulgarity word I was, making her do something other than just ring on the cash register.
And where is the phone situated as opposed to where the patrons are?
The phone is situated by drive-through, and she was on front line. She had to go over and use the phone behind an wall, to use the phone.
But she was supposed to be on the cash register.
That's correct, Your Honor.
So she couldn't be on the cash register if she was on the phone?
That's correct.
Well, after there was a lot of profanity, did she finally hang up the phone?
I asked her to please clock out. I gave her a choice.
Clock out meaning?
Meaning that she should leave the restaurant, and that's all. She would be paid for the day that she could go home. She had a choice, either get off the phone or clock out. So I finally asked her to clock out. I said, if you don't leave, I will have to call the police, because at that point it's criminal trespassing. And we are taught in our managerial duties that you exercise this to the employees, that they do have other duties, and that when they're off the clock they could use the phone, but not when they're supposed to be doing their work assignments. That's my managerial right. And I asked her, I said, would you please clock out? And she went to the cash register to clock out. She said, give me that phone, I'll call the police. And I had it up to my ear and was ready to call the police. And I faked it the first time, hoping she'd shape up and quit the profanity.
What do
and
you
that
mean
would be
faked
the end.
it?
I called the police, but I didn't get to talk to anybody because one of the employees unplugged the receiver and I was talking to no one. And by that time she said, give me the phone, I will call the police. And I saw her heave back with the receiver of the phone, and I ducked. But unfortunately, I did not duck far enough. And I was hit with the phone up here. I didn't want to get it in the eye, and I saw it coming. And there was blood all over in my...
Right in the front of your head?
Yes, see the scar.
Could you step up, please? My eyes aren't as good as they used to be.
Likewise.
All right, there's about a scar that appears to be about 2.5 inches long. This is the mark right here that you're talking about?
Yes, and it was 3 deep, and I had a picture.
Did you see this? Did you see the scar on her forehead?
No, I haven't.
Well, would you step back, Bird? Would you accompany the plaintiff and let the defendant and her mother look at that scar?
Step over here.
Okay. You had stitches in your head?
Yes.
How many?
I had 12 to 14 on the top layer, and they told me it was 3 deep. I have no idea what the total is. I have medical reports.
How long were you out of work?
I was out of work. I was told to stay off by 3 weeks. I was told after 8 days.
Don't tell me what you were told. Just tell me how long you stayed out of work. 3 weeks?
4 or 5 days.
And tell me what kind of pain, if any, you had in your head.
I have never had headaches in my life, and I have one every day since I have been hit. I am also losing my eyesight in this eye, which the doctors are watching me very closely. I have all my medical reports, Your Honor.
Now, you were arrested, is that correct?
No.
Were you taken into police custody at any time?
No, I wasn't.
Are you telling me that there was no trial in any other court? Because according to these papers, there was a trial in another court.
Yes, there was a trial, but I'm saying I didn't get arrested or anything. The police didn't. They didn't take me.
How did you get to court, madam?
We got a letter in the mail.
It was a hearing. She filed a juvenile complaint. Ms. Keeman did. And that's where we went to court for a hearing, an assault charge.
Okay, well, that's a trial. Hearing is a trial.
Yes.
It's just that you are 16, is that right?
17.
17?
She was 16 when it occurred.
All right, let's hear your version of what happened.
Okay. When I got there, Phyllis was with another manager there. And she was a really nice person when the other manager was there. And like if you get a break or something, no matter what, when people come in, you have to go back to the register. And so and I had a sandwich, and the whole time I had to keep coming back and forth. I couldn't go.
Couldn't go where?
I couldn't go to my break. I couldn't eat my sandwich because people kept coming in. So then the manager had finally left, and there was no more. It was like we were completely dead. And and I went ahead and ate my sandwich. And then Phyllis, you know, she got mad because she didn't know that I had asked the other manager right before she had left or anything. And so that, you know, like, that's kind of how like the attitude started towards me. And the phone rang and she answered the phone and it was for me and she told me I could use it. And I got on it and I
Who was on the phone?
It was just one of my friends. He asked, "What are you doing?" "Nothing, working." And then she runs back, "Get off the phone now. You can't be sitting here talking about me and all this stuff." And I hadn't said a thing about her. And, you know, I got off the phone. And I was told to sweep behind the counter. So I said, okay. And while I was sweeping and everything, she was like over by the bathrooms, just screaming at something at us. And we couldn't hear her. And, you know, and
what do you mean you couldn't hear? If she was screaming, how could you not hear her?
We could hear her yelling, but we couldn't hear what she was saying.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She's allowed to give you an attitude, madam. She's the boss, applesauce.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Restaurant manager Phyllis Keeman is suing her former employee Bethany Tolbert, claiming she split her head open. Bethany says it was an accident.
You said she was screaming at you, but how do you know she was screaming at you if she was screaming at all if you couldn't hear her?
No, I'm saying that she was yelling. She was just yelling something towards us when we didn't know what she was saying. And then she came up to the front. She finally came up, and she got like directly in front of me, and she screamed it again. And so
she screamed what?
She screamed to get over and mop this effing floor now. And so I heard her, but I said, "What you say?" Because, you know, because I was kind of upset because, you know, she was right in my face. And so she said, "Oh, you didn't hear that?" And so she repeated it again. And I told her I was sweeping the floor, and I said, "You know, so you really don't have to speak to me that way." And she said, "Oh, I'll talk to you how the F I want to talk to you," and all this stuff. And so that's when me and her started arguing. And so she told me to clock out. And the thing with that job is that on any hour, there's like a print off that goes off, and it's 5 minutes before and 5 minutes after, and you can't clock out within that 10 minutes. And it was 8 o'clock on the dot, and I couldn't clock out. And I told her, and she said, so she picked up the phone and said she was calling the police. Then she hung up the phone. She got on the phone and said she had an insubordinate employee and she wanted her arrested, and hung up the phone. That's all she said. And so, and I kept telling her, you know, I couldn't clock out. She's like, "Get out of here." She's screaming and everything, acting like I was gonna hurt her or something. And I'm like 12 feet away from her. So I said, well, look, I said, you need to call them back and tell them that I have 5 minutes, and I'll leave in 5 minutes, because we have always been we were told that we're not allowed to let any managers clock on ring in on our registers. We're not allowed to let anybody clock us out, and no matter what the reason is. So I couldn't clock out, and I didn't know her either. And so, you know, I said, well, I'll call him. I said, I'll call him back. And so I went and I picked up the phone. The phone was on the receiver. I picked up the phone. She grabbed me and started shaking me. And that's how we were pulling each other like this. And she finally pulled the phone out of my hand. And that's how she got hit.
Show me with your mother how that happened. Let's say your mother is the plaintiff. Show me, Miss Tolbert, because that's what you said in your answer. You just showed me this motion that you were tugging over the phone. So show me how she got hit on the top of the head.
Okay, she's shorter than me. It's like the way.
Use the cup as the phone.
All right. Okay, so this would be the phone, and I'm holding it. And I'm pulling it like this, and she's holding me here.
Just, would you do that, please?
I grab the phone.
Okay, she's grabbing me here and on my wrist.
Mm-hmm.
And we're pulling back and forth like this. And that's how she got hit, and she finally pulled it out of my hand.
That's how she got hit, on the top of her head?
Yeah, she's shorter than me.
Now, you weren't there, is that right?
That's correct, I wasn't.
Do you know anything about this case?
Yes, ma'am.
From your daughter?
From the testimonies that I've heard, all of them.
I've heard the testimony. I don't have to rely on anybody else's hearing the testimony of the witnesses. I'm relying on common sense. You do not get, if you're struggling over a telephone, a gash to the top of the head that's 3 inches long. You don't get that. I've heard this lady testify. It doesn't sound to me as if this is the kind of lady who is going to use the F word over and over again in speaking to your daughter. I want to tell you that. Just doesn't strike me that way. Now, I have just a couple of other questions for you. You took a leave, you said, from this job for a month. Why?
I was sick.
What was the matter with you?
I have migraines, and I was having some stomach problems and stuff.
How many jobs have you had?
I've been working since I was 14. So one job I worked at for 2 years.
What happened to that job?
I quit.
Why?
Because it was old to me. I found a better one.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She's a very good actor, and that's what her really job should be.
And later today,
Just a second. I know what your argument is. I'm very smart. This is not a complicated case. You know, this is not the Scopes trial.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Restaurant manager Phyllis Keeman is suing her former employee Bethany Tolbert, claiming she split her head open. Bethany says it was an accident.
You assaulted this lady. She was your boss. Let me tell you something about bosses. And your mother, who takes your side in this case, even though she wasn't there, better listen very carefully. Life is sometimes not fair. And when you raise children, you're supposed to raise children to understand that there are certain authority figures. Like you start out when you're a teacher in a school. As a teacher in a school, my mother always taught me that right or wrong, the teacher was right at that moment. When the teacher told me to do something, I did it. I may come home and complain to my mother later, but I don't tell the teacher to go take a walk. I learned that when I was 6, and I learned that when I was 20, and I taught that to my children. Is that what you learned, Bird?
That's what I learned.
And then you go through life and you have bosses. And sometimes you have good bosses, and sometimes you don't have good bosses. And sometimes they're nice people, and sometimes they're not so nice people. But while they're your bosses, you listen to them. And if you don't like it, you say, I don't like this job, I'm leaving. What happened with your daughter is you didn't teach her that right from the beginning. Probably said to her, you stand up for what you think is right to your teachers when you're 6 and to your boss when you're 16. It's not what happens. I've gone through life having a lot of bosses that I didn't like, who told me a lot of stupid things. And I knew that they were stupid when they told them to me. I did them until I got disgusted, and then I said, I'm going to find another job. That's what you do.
Excuse me, can I say something?
Sure.
Okay, I had no problem with whatever. When she was telling me to do things, I had no problem doing that. I mean, I've been working since I was 14. I can go ahead and do the work.
Are you telling me that she cursed you out using the F curse word?
She sure did.
I don't believe you. What do you think about that?
What do
I don't
I think
believe
about
you.
it?
I don't believe you.
I mean,
just like when you said in your answer, when she said to you, put down the phone or go and sweep the floor, you said to me, what did you say to me? Even though you told me just now that you heard every word that she said. You gave her an attitude.
She gave me one.
She's allowed to give you an attitude, madam. She's the boss, applesauce.
I know she's the boss, but she can't curse at me like
She's the boss, applesauce. So you better work really hard because she's got a 3-inch scar. She's got headaches. You had no reason to assault her. She's suing you for pain and suffering, and she's going to get the money for pain and suffering that she's suing for. Judgment in this case is $5,000 for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I'm gonna whoop her.
Out the back door to your right, please.
And I feel sorry for the other employees that have to work under her.
She's going to hell for all his lying. That's about it.
And now the next case.
Parties on Rusk versus Nelson. Step forward, please.
18-year-old student Brandon Rusk says he and 5 other seniors rented a limo for their prom. He's suing 18-year-old Krista Nelson, claiming she didn't pay her share.
Not a difficult case. You had a senior prom, a senior ball. You decided to take a limousine.
All right, on May 31st, like you said, we had our senior ball. There were 3 couples, me, my girlfriend, Krista, her date, and...
Krista?
Krista, her date.
Your date, Jeff, according to your papers.
Yes.
And her witness, Jason, and his date.
And this gentleman?
Yes.
So, did you know her date, Jeff?
No, I did not.
Who did you make your arrangement with to share the cost of this limousine?
It was me, Krista here, and Jason's date.
That's not true because it was 6 ways. You happened to be paying for Colette, and Katie happened to be paying for Jason, but Jeff.
Oh, just a minute. I'm getting too complicated. Mr. Rusk, you paid for the whole limousine.
Yes, I did.
And it came out to $175 per couple.
Yes, it did.
Correct. And my date was supposed to pay for it.
Just a second. You got your money from Jason.
Jason, yes, I did.
He gave you the $175.
Yes, he did.
Your problem is, Miss Nelson says that she's only paying for part of the limousine She had a lousy time at the prom with Jeff. She's not talking to him anymore. And he didn't pay for his share. Is that the case?
That's the case with me, but my argument is that I never knew
Just
her
a second. I know what your argument is. I'm very smart. This is not a complicated case. You know, this is not the Scopes trial. When you made arrangements for this limousine, did you speak to him or did Jeff speak to him?
I spoke to him.
Stop! Say nothing else. Just answer my questions. You spoke to him. Did he ever meet Jeff before the prom? When?
Yes. We met at Columbia Pool for a while, and then we went over to Colette's house for a while. He knew, it was clear that Jeff was paying for our portion of the limo.
Just a second. The arrangement was that each of the three couples would pay, and you made that initial arrangement with him. Is that right?
Correct.
And then you had a conversation with your date, Jeff.
Right.
Right. Just a minute. Right. And your conversation with your date, Jeff, was, are you going to pay for this limousine?
Correct.
And Jeff said yes.
Right. And I told Brandon.
That had nothing to do with Brandon. You're Brandon, right?
Yes.
Brandon Rusk. Your original agreement with him was, when he arranged for this limousine, that your third was going to be paid.
Yes.
You then had a conversation with Jeff.
No. From the very beginning, we all sat down and made plans together that we were going to go. We contacted the limo place, everything.
Who's we?
All of us. We all got together and did it besides Jeff. Jeff was the only one who wasn't there.
Right.
But I told Brandon from the beginning that Jeff would be paying, that I was going to get Jeff to pay for our portion of the limo.
That's your problem.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Don't you hear what you're saying, madam? Jeff wasn't there when you made the arrangements. He relied on the fact that you, as his friend, were going to be responsible for a third of it. You later spoke to Jeff, because Jeff wasn't there when you made these arrangements, according to your own statement. Look, you gotta pay for your portion. You wanna sue Jeff? Sue him. He shouldn't be out the money.
And I agree.
Good. $175 for the plaintiff, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
The night of senior ball, it ended up being a bad experience, and he basically left all night long, and I wasn't with him at all.
We went through the senior ball as planned, you know, had a good time except for Krista and her date, but Krista had a good time on her own. And
Can we get a hug, Krista?
Yeah.
Half of their daughter's karate lessons.
Order. All rise. Order in the courtroom, please. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 293 on the calendar in the matter of Carlin versus Stepp. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
Mr. Carlin, you and the defendant have been divorced for many years.
Yes, ma'am.
And according to your complaint, you shared custody for most of those years of your now 16-year-old daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
And it sounded as if everything was going along reasonably well, right? Until you gave your consent, while your daughter was with you, to have her lip pierced.
Yes.
A decision which I gather, reading between the lines, you regret a little bit.
Slightly.
And as a result of that, Mr. Carlin, I get the sense you filed this lawsuit, which alleges that your former wife had agreed to pay for half of your daughter's karate lessons.
That's correct, Your Honor.
And she became rather expert in karate. She took karate for several years. Your former wife had not paid for half.
That's correct.
Something that I don't think bothered you too much until the lip piercing.
No, that's not correct, Your Honor.
Well, this whole thing didn't blow up until the lip piercing. Is that right?
That's correct.
And then something happened that, as far as I'm concerned, was tragic, but we'll get to that in a moment. So why don't you tell me when this agreement was made with your former wife?
About 3 years ago, Sarah was shopping around. She was interested in taking karate. So she looked at one school, and she looked at another one, and she liked the second one. It wasn't as expensive as the other one, and as a matter of fact, it was a little bit cheaper, but they wanted the money up front, basically over a 10-month to a year period. It came out to a little over $4,100. I talked to my wife, Teresa, and she said, we cannot afford this. I said that Sarah's mother would agree to split it with me. I picked up the phone, I called her, I laid this out to her, exactly how they wanted. I didn't expect the money right up front from her, but she said that she would split the cost of the school. 2.5 years later, 3 years later, I've yet to get a dime.
Do you remember having the conversation with him
No,
when your
Your
daughter
Honor.
started school?
No, Your Honor, I don't.
He says that he did discuss with you when she first started karate school, make sure you tell me the truth, that he wanted you to pay for half because he couldn't assume the entire burden of the classes. Now, are you telling me that he's lying?
Yes, I am, Your Honor. That's not true. I never saw one document from the karate school. He never approached me about paying half the money. We split tokens. He would pay tokens 1 week, I would pay tokens for school. The karate lesson money was never brought up.
Now, something happened with your daughter recently, I assume, when she came to you and said she wanted to have her lip pierced. Tell me about that conversation.
Well, for 2 years, she had wanted to get something pierced. She has about 3 holes in her ear, and I was like, no more, no more. And when she was 16, we had discussions. She asked and asked and asked, and finally I broke down.
Did you discuss it with her father?
No, I didn't.
Why not?
It really wouldn't have been a big deal.
All right, Mr. Carlin.
Yes, ma'am.
Then you saw your daughter. I must tell you, I am sympathetic with you as a parent. You see your gorgeous daughter, and she's got this ridiculous thing in her face, and you got really angry.
That's correct.
So what did you do?
Well, Sarah and I had discussions prior to this that she was getting a little tired of the shared custody arrangement. So I picked her up and saw the stud, and I couldn't believe it. I took her down the next day to the place where she had it put in, and I let them know that she was only 16. I want this thing out now. And she refused to come in. So I took her back to her mother's house, and I said, you're tired of this shared custody arrangement? I said, I can't have this, either. And that was it. She's been with her mother since July 15th.
Mr. Carlin, you're going to answer me very honestly, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I think you've been a good father. I think you've been an involved father, good parent. Do you believe, Mr. Carlin, that your reaction to your daughter's piercing was appropriate?
At the time, yes.
Now, at the time, yes, because you're a human being and you have, the juices started to flow. In retrospect.
No, I think I could have handled it a little bit differently, but like I said, even Sarah agreed that she shouldn't have gotten this thing, and she even went down with me to the place where she got it pierced at to get it out. But when we got there, she made a stance that I'm not going to do it, Dad. And I said, well, then we just can't have this shared custody arrangement anymore.
Excuse me, Your
That was
Honor.
it.
She didn't want to go down to the piercing place. He made her go down, and when she wouldn't get it out, he dropped her off at the corner of my street and said, get out, in no uncertain terms. They had no discussion over the shared custody thing outlasting itself. The term was, get out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
As long as I pay the bills, I want to be able to look at you unencumbered by things coming out of your face and your ears.
And later today,
Never get in the middle of two people who are getting a divorce.
They've never got along. He can't stand her.
That's very understandable.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Joe Carlin says his ex-wife Mary Stepp agreed to pay for half of their daughter's karate lessons. Mary claims they never had such an agreement, and Joe is angry because she allowed their daughter to get her lip pierced.
A judge is not a computer. A judge is a human being, and we bring to our job all of our history. you know, all of our own personal stories. So I'm going to share one with you. All right? I have 5 kids, and they're all older now. When one of my children started college, and this was 14, 15 years ago, he came home from school after his first couple of months, and I picked him up at the bus station, which was pretty far away from our house. And he was coming home with a friend. And he got off the bus, and I looked at this handsome child, and he had something wangling from his ear. So I kissed him hello. And I said, "You can get in the car. That thing stays outside." "Oh, Mother, don't be ridiculous. You know, everybody's doing it." I said, "Listen, I don't have to look at it. I brought you into this world. I still pay the bills. As long as I pay the bills, I want to be able to look at you unencumbered by things coming out of your face and your ears." He thought I was kidding. I said, "You got 5 minutes, boy." And he hung around, he spoke to his friend, and they were trying to figure out whether I was serious or not. 5 minutes passed, the thing wasn't out of his ear. I got in my car and I went home. And about 2.5 hours later, because it took that long by public transportation, you know where this was? This was in the Bronx, where he was in the Bronx, all the way up in the Bronx, where the bus came in from Albany, Bronx, New York. He managed to find his way home without the earring in his ear. Now, that doesn't mean when he was in college, he didn't have rings and ropes and dangles and doodads hanging out from every orifice of his body. But I didn't have to look at it. So you didn't do the right thing. You know, you're supposed to be a parent first and a friend second. And a parent says, "Babe, you got a couple more years until you are 18 years old. Then I can't tell you what to do." Right? You want to paint polka dots on your face, you can paint polka dots on your face. But while you're in my house, I don't want to have to look at this thing here. I don't want to look at something in your tongue. I don't want to look at something in your nose. I just don't want to see it. You didn't do that. That really irritated him. Right, Mr. Carlin?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay. So the problem is this. I find it difficult, Mr. Carlin, to imagine that 3 years have gone by with you taking no action whatsoever, even to get $100, $200, and have done nothing over the 3-year period of time to recoup any money if you say that there was this verbal agreement. I have a problem with that. So I'm going to take care of the lawsuit right now. I'm not satisfied that you have established to my satisfaction that there was this contract.
Your Honor, child support is more than just a check in the mail each week. There's
Sir, if that's what you're
parental
banking on, I'm telling you, it doesn't hold water. Karate lessons don't come under the category of necessaries for anybody. So I'm not, if that's what you're hanging your hat on, forget it. More importantly, Mr. Carlin, you have invested 16 years in your daughter. And I think it's a mistake to cut her off after 16 years because she, as a 16-year-old, made a foolish mistake. Big mistake, Mr. Carlin. I want you to rethink it. In any event, this lawsuit is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Out the back door to your right, please.
I took care of her.
Not one
From a-
phone call
from an
since
infant.
July 15th. Not one phone call. Nothing.
Sarah don't know how to use a phone.
Your duty's to call her at 7
Oh,
o'clock
that's
at
my
night.
duty.
Yeah, you're
That's
the
my
father. She's a child.
She's 16 years old.
Great, great.
She's 16 years old. She can make up her mind.
And now the next case.
Parties on. Lehman versus Morris. Step forward, please.
22-year-old Kelly Lehman says she made a deal with her best friend April Morris to take over the payments on her truck and pay for repairs. She's suing because April's ex-husband, James, repossessed it.
It's not every case that has a moral. This case has a moral. You know what that is?
Yes.
You know what the moral is?
Don't do business with friends.
That's one, but the other one would be never get in the middle of two people who are getting a divorce. It's always a mistake, right? Ms. Lamont, according to your papers, The defendant was a friend of yours. She and her husband were divorcing. You the husband?
Yes.
And I'm sure in addition to other things, there was a truck that they wanted to sell, or that she wanted to sell. There were payments due and owing on the truck. You made an arrangement with her to take over the payments on the truck and to do substantial repairs that were on the truck.
Correct.
You paid the money for the repairs. You didn't have the truck in your possession at that time.
No, I did not.
The truck is in the shop.
Correct.
And you kept paying.
I made one payment.
In August.
In August, correct.
And according to these papers, for most of the month of August, the truck was still in the shop.
Yes.
And you're going to tell me why you did that in a minute. And then, in the divorce, according to your answer, he got possession of the truck, and he came and took it out of her driveway. Is that this case?
Well, it was parked on the street.
Or took it from the street. So you want to be paid back for all the repairs you did on the truck, for the payment that you made on the truck, and then there's something here about punitive damages, which is really nonsense.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
We started getting in a fight after her boyfriend said that he was attracted to me after we had gone out one night together.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kelly Lehman says she made a deal with her best friend April Morris to take over the payments on her truck and pay for repairs. April and her ex-husband James say they repossessed the truck because Kelly made the payments late.
So let's hear about this deal.
Okay, well, April and I have been friends since the first day of high school. I needed a more dependable vehicle. She had it. I said, okay, we made this arrangement. At the time when the payment came due for the August payment, I didn't want to make it. I didn't have the truck. Why should I make it if I didn't own it?
Why do you think she should have made payment on the truck if the truck wasn't in her possession?
It was her agreement with me that she would make that first payment. And we thought that the body work that needed to be done would be done a lot sooner.
But it wasn't. Didn't it seem unfair to you that she had
It wasn't
made
my fault.
hundreds of...
It wasn't my fault that she agreed to make the payment.
But didn't it seem unfair to you? This is a friend of yours. Didn't it seem unfair to you that you had this truck that needed all kinds of repairs in order to make it drivable? Because there's stuff that was needed on the clutch and the bodywork and the muffler, things that she didn't know about at the beginning.
She knew about everything, and it was her choice.
The muffler was never told that it needed a new muffler.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
I was never told that the windshield was cracked. I was never told that the truck had actually been rolled and that there was more damage to it than that was apparently done to
Well,
it.
The truck wasn't rolled.
Gives you another good lesson.
Right.
You don't buy a pig in a poke. If you're going to start spending money on something, you take a look at it, even if you're dealing with a friend. So you made the August payment.
Late. She made it late when she promised to make it on time.
She made it late, but at the time that she made it, she still didn't have the vehicle in her
That wasn't
possession.
my fault, though. But she didn't have a
Whose fault
problem
is it? It
with
wasn't my fault, madam. The truck was in your possession, under your control when it was damaged. Wasn't under her control when it was damaged.
She didn't have a problem with making that payment until we got in a fight over her boyfriend.
How much did you spend on this truck altogether?
Oh, I've spent a total of $1,053.38.
$1,053
and 38 cents.
38 cents. And that includes the bills that you have to show me for the repairs, as well as the 1 month's payment for August. You don't deny that she paid you this money?
I don't know what she's giving you.
Okay, show it to her.
At the time that the repairs were being done, I was told it would be a matter of days when I had given her the money, and it ended up taking like 2 weeks.
And that was not my fault. I kept mailing checks to the body shop, and they kept telling me they didn't receive them.
It's always somebody else's fault. You keep saying it's not my fault, it's not my fault, it's not my fault. It's not her fault. You, step up here, I have a question for you. What's your name?
James.
James, you went and took the truck off the street.
Yes.
Did you know she had made all these repair payments? Look at me, James. Don't look at the floor. Did you know she had made all the repairs?
Yeah.
Well, didn't you think it was wrong to go and take the truck?
No.
Why not?
She didn't do everything she said she was going to do.
You're talking about this September payment that you didn't make on time. You repossessed this truck from her September 12th.
By the law,
No,
you
not
have to have
September 12th.
insurance on the vehicle. She didn't have insurance on the vehicle.
Did you ever discuss it? I mean, you were friends. Is that right?
Jim was
They
not
were
even
friends.
involved.
Just a second. If you were friends with her, that means you knew each other. You had socialized in each other's homes. Your
Yes.
children played. Is that true?
Kind of.
They never got along. They
They
never
never
got
Ay,
along.
ay, ay. I
He
can
can't
understand
stand her.
that. That's very understandable.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Well, right now, she's out all this money, and you got the truck. And you were awarded the truck in the divorce, sir. Is
Yes.
that right?
That's right.
How many cars did your family have?
2.
2. You had the truck, and what kind of car did you have?
A Ford Escort.
Uh-huh. So you agreed between the two of you that you would keep the Escort and he would keep the truck. Is that correct?
But we also agreed that if she made the payments on time, as soon as our divorce was finalized, that we would sign and let her refinance the truck. But after we got in a fight, she didn't want to refinance. She said, I'm going to do what I want. There's nothing you can do about it. You can't take the vehicle from me. She refused to get insurance until it was in her name. Therefore, she's driving around a vehicle that we owe a lot of money on still. She did not make the, okay, granted, give her the first month. She did make payment on time. If you say she didn't have the vehicle, even though she agreed and it wasn't my fault, the second month, she came up with an excuse. I don't have the money. I can't make it till it's late. She breached our agreement first. And when he took the truck, he took it on his own. I had nothing to do with it. The
Ms.
payment
Morris,
was late.
right now there is something inequitable about you having a totally fixed truck and her having nothing but the bills.
No. We offered to make her payments. They wouldn't accept it. They wanted all the money up front.
She paid all of it up front, $1,053.38. Can I have the bills, please?
She didn't
make it in payments.
I don't agree with all of this.
Ms. Morris, I don't care what you agree with. There is something
You asked me-
inequitable.
you asked me,
Hey,
I'm telling you.
now I'm asking you to be quiet. You, sir, are driving around in a truck where she fixed the bodywork, she fixed the clutch, she fixed the muffler, she fixed the windshield, and you got
She
a
didn't
brick.
fix the windshield.
Didn't fix no windshield.
Strike windshield. And you're driving around in the truck. You should have taken care of this yourself. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,053.38. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. I'll back to your right, please.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
We started getting in a fight after her boyfriend said that he was attracted to me after we had gone out one night together.
anyway.
After that, she wouldn't talk to me.
It's
We're
over.
not friends.
You know, I mothered
We're
her
not
children
friends.
for years.
She is so
I
full of
helped
my
her
kids
daughter.
can't stand you, Kelly.
That's a lie.
Stupor at her daughter's birthday party. Mr. Stipke is countersuing for his medical bills.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 269 on the calendar in the matter of Bettis versus Stipke. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, please. Have a seat.
You had a birthday party at your house for your daughter Nicole
And Christina.
and Christina.
We also celebrated 2 other children's birthday at that time.
And according to this complaint, one of the other children who was celebrating a birthday was the daughter of a friend of yours
Yes.
who brought this gentleman to the party.
Yes.
So you came, sir, as an invited guest
Yes, ma'am.
of this lady?
Yes.
See how smart I am. Your claim is that while he was at the party, he was drunk?
Yes.
And he destroyed some furniture?
Yes.
Were you drunk?
No, ma'am. I had 3 or 4 beers at the most. They had other people drinking. Her sister and her husband were also drinking a beer.
Who cares about a sister and her brother? They didn't break furniture.
No, they did not.
Well, why'd you go to the birthday party and drink?
Nah, I just had a few beers.
Uh-huh. Why don't you tell me, sir, how it came about that you broke this furniture? Describe what happened to me, if you remember.
Diane had threw a piece of ice up to me.
Just a second. Diane, that's you.
Right.
Stand up there, Diane. Because I found that Interesting. So she threw what at
A piece of ice up in the air.
Ice.
Ice.
Where were you standing at this time?
On the patio.
On the patio.
Describe how you threw a piece of ice. How far were you standing apart?
3 feet.
Well, move over another foot.
I felt like this.
About that far? And you, what were you doing? Your hands weren't behind your back, sir. What were you doing? You're holding a beer?
Yeah.
Yes.
Make like you're holding a beer, right? All right.
And a cigarette.
And you're, what?
And a cigarette in the other hand.
Cigarette in the other hand?
Yes.
I don't remember.
Make like a cigarette in the other hand. Now, Diane, show me what you were doing.
I just tossed a piece of ice up.
An ice cube?
Yes. It was out of the ice chest. Actually, it was out of my cup, but Mike lifted his head up and he stepped
No, just
back.
me. You're going to show me. Toss the ice. Go ahead. Toss it. Go.
And when I went back, I hit the end of the table and went down and then busted my head open on a toy chest.
Just a second. I'm not interested with your head. I'm interested in the table. Right? You broke the table.
The end piece, yeah.
The end piece of the table.
Right.
Because you were acting like a fool at a children's birthday party. He had 3 or 4 beers. She's throwing ice cubes at you, and you're catching them in your mouth, right? And I say this to you, sir, because to add insult to injury, you filed a countersuit in this case. You're suing her because you fell and broke your head and split your head open. What does that have to do with her? What does that have to do with her?
That was her house, and I was on her property, and I went through pain and suffering through the deal.
So whose fault was that?
It was my fault.
So what are you suing her for?
For the pain and suffering I went through.
Why is your pain and suffering her problem? If you get it, listen to me, sir. If you get out of bed in the middle of the night, right, to go to the bathroom, and you stub your toe on a chair, and you break your toe, do you sue the chair manufacturer? Huh?
No.
No. Now, the table didn't have 3 or 4 beers and move. Right?
No.
So I'm really trying to understand what was in your mind when you filed this countersuit. Her lawsuit, I understand.
Okay.
Okay. That was easy.
Okay.
That was easy. Okay. Is that pretty much what happened?
In general, yes. We offered to call 911 or take him to the hospital. He refused.
You were
No,
being...
no, that is not true.
Doesn't make any difference. I want to know about the table.
Okay. Basically, the table was broke on one side, and he broke a chair.
So did you have it fixed? Were you able to repair it?
We tried to get it fixed. They were not able to fix the table and the
How
chair.
did he break a chair?
He was sitting in it, and when he leant over to get a beer off the table, he broke the chair.
He broke the... Well, that happened before the table.
Right.
You remember that?
No, there was no chair broken, no.
You don't remember a broken chair?
No.
There was not a chair broken.
How was it broken? You have a picture of it?
Yes, we do. It's basically just a little metal hinge that fits into the grooves of the side of the chair. It's a folding chair, little wooden folding chair. And
so did you fix the folding chair?
No, there's nowhere to fix the metal piece.
Did the party continue on after this happened with this fall?
Once they left, the party did end, yes.
Yes, ma'am.
He fell backwards, and I came watching over there, and Mommy and Mommy's friend and Diane, they tried to doctor him, but they rushed him to the hospital.
Thank you. Did you have a good time at your birthday party? You didn't. Why not? Why not?
It's okay.
You can tell me. Tell me your name.
Tina, fix it, Tina.
Hmm?
You offered to fix it, Tina.
No, she's all right. She's all right. I won't ask her any more questions.
Thank you.
Evidently, she didn't have such a good time at the birthday party.
No. She does not want me to throw any more parties for her again because of what happened.
Why?
Because basically She seen him walking around drunk and fall down and shed blood all over at her birthday party.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I was told they were going to pay $50 each Sunday. I did not get any money, so I took matters into my own hands.
And later today,
I certainly wouldn't make damage in broad daylight with a neighbor walking outside in the street.
The police were there, and he fled.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 35-year-old Cynthia Bettis says Mike Stipke ruined her daughter's birthday party when he got drunk and broke a table. Mike says it was all an accident and is countersuing for medical bills.
How much was the table worth?
About $200.
Okay.
I have the, a letter from the lady who owns the table.
You borrowed the table from somebody else?
My in-laws did. They borrowed the table for the party.
Okay, well, it has to be replaced. And you have to pay for it. Don't be foolish.
I did offer to pay for it.
So then what are we doing here?
I asked for the money to be delivered, $50 every Sunday, and they agreed upon it, and it never came through.
I offered to write her a check in the whole full amount and have Mike pay me back because I live 3 blocks from him.
So? I never got that offer.
She says, I'm going away for the weekend. I'll call you when I get back. We'll make arrangements to happen. She didn't call.
Why don't you just drop off the check?
Why
don't
should
you
I
just
go
send
over
her the
there?
check?
She made it clear she didn't want me over there.
Why don't you just send her the check in the mail? Say, I'm sorry this happened. Sorry
I
spoiled
am
the
sorry it
birthday
happened,
party.
and I made that quite clear to her.
All right, well, it's a very unfortunate circumstance. Sir, you understand that you owe $200. That's for the table. I mean, little girls who had a birthday party, one of them had a good time. The older one didn't. She probably understands a little bit more about what was going on. Certainly, you know that your countersuit has absolutely no merit. If you act like a fool, sometimes you get hurt. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $200.
Do I get the table?
Do you get the table?
Yes.
No, you get the judgment.
Okay.
Parties are excused. Step out.
Thank you. What a jerk.
Back door to your right, please.
It was an accident and it happened. I'm sorry that I broke your table.
Thank you. I'd like you to apologize to the kids that you ruined their party.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
And now the next case.
Parties on Oakray versus Engler. Step forward, please.
ATM saleswoman Marlene Opray is suing her business associate Roger Engler, charging he vandalized her car. Roger says she's retaliating against him over a business deal gone bad.
All right, Miss Opray, you claim that the defendant vandalized your car.
Yes.
By keying it.
Yes, Your Honor.
Why would he do such a thing?
As retaliatory for not working with me any longer.
Well, tell me about that.
We just had a court case in San Francisco about 2.5 weeks ago to where he tried to say I owed him a sum of money for the month of June.
He was an employee of yours?
No, he was a self-contractor only if he were to sell ATM machines.
Okay, so he was an independent contractor.
Yes, Your Honor.
So he sued you last month.
And he lost because he didn't produce, he didn't make one sale.
Whatever, he lost.
That's right.
When was the car vandalized?
August 25th.
And when was the court case?
October 7th.
So the car was vandalized before the court case?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Did you report it vandalized?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Where was it vandalized? Tell me about it.
It was in my carport. My daughter saw him do it, and this is Linda, my daughter. Hi. And the police came immediately after he had done this, and he fled. If he hadn't done it, why would he flee from the police?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I have to tell you what he said in our last court case on October 7th when I told him I had 2 witnesses 2 weeks ago. And he says, nobody saw me do it.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. ATM saleswoman Marlene Opray says her former business associate Roger Engler keyed her car, causing severe damage. Roger denies he did anything wrong.
You say, your mother says at least, that you actually observed him.
Yes, I did.
Well, tell me what you saw.
Your Honor, he came to the house around 8:30 or 9 in the morning. I answered the door, and this gentleman was at my mom's door. He asked if Marlene Opray was there. I asked who he was. He did not want to leave a name with me. I seen he had a white envelope in his hand. I said I was her daughter. I would be more glad to give it to her, and he refused to give it to me. So I shut the door. I went in, I told my mom, she was in the shower at the time. My mom asked him to come back in 30 minutes, asked what he looked like, and this and that. I described him. She couldn't place him. So I went back and I told this gentleman. He wasn't too happy about it. He said he had come a long distance to give this to my mother. And I says, well, like I said, if you want to come back in 30 minutes. I shut my door. I went into my room. Not even 2 minutes later, I heard a screeching noise outside. It's right outside my bedroom window. There's a carport. My car was parked there as well as my mother's. I didn't have any clothes on because I answered the door. I was in my pajamas. I opened it up halfway. I went to go put my pants on to run out there to see what he was doing. He was kneeling down on the other side of my mom's car on the right rear tire. So I got my pants on. I ran out there. At that time, this gentleman was pulling away. I ran out after him. He kept going. He did see me. I saw him look in his rearview mirror. There was another gentleman walking in the park there where we live. He said this gentleman had parked there for a while there.
You can't tell me what the other gentleman said. So you actually saw him kneeling against your mother's car?
Yes, I did.
You did not actually see him scratch your mother's car?
I seen him kneeling there. I heard a noise.
You heard a noise,
Yes.
and you saw him kneeling near the car?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Had you parked the car there the evening before?
Yes, I did.
And when you parked the car there, can you describe its condition to me?
It was good. I mean,
What
I'd
kind of a
been
car is it?
driving all day. I had not been out of the car. I'd been on a long trip. And I'd parked there about 11:30 at night. And, Your Honor, we have security at the park, so nobody came in.
Do you have pictures of the car?
Yes, I do.
May I see it, please?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Ringler, I'll hear you, sir.
Okay. It's a nice story. Mostly none of it is true, but that's a nice story. Number one, we were partners. I had letters that showed that we were business partners. We had gone on a number of trips together. We were supposed to share income and so on.
I'm not interested in the other lawsuit, sir.
No, I
you
understand.
lost the other lawsuit.
I'm just giving background. She owed me money. She kept on promising she was going to pay money. And then all of a sudden she was disappearing and she wasn't returning calls. And she wasn't returning calls. We had been in for 3 months on the phone every single day, once, twice, sometimes 3 times a day, many times.
I'm not interested in that. You went to her house at 8:30 in the morning.
No,
for what purpose?
First of all, it was 9:30 in the morning.
9:30.
Okay, there was.
For what purpose?
For what purpose? I went to give her a letter in her hand saying I've dissolved the partnership between us, and that's what I went to deliver. Her daughter came to the door. She was dressed. The door was open. She said, who are you? And I said, I just came here to give your mother a piece of paper. She said, let me go back and find out. She came back and she said, my mother's in the shower. Can you come back in 30 minutes? There was a gentleman walking in the street that we exchanged pleasantries. That was the extent of it.
Can I see the police report, please?
Yes, ma'am.
As far as I can see, is simply retaliation. It's whatever she can do. Nothing to do with me.
I see the police were called, sir, on that day, on the 25th of August. So it's clearly not retaliatory because you evidently did not proceed in court until October. Your judgment wasn't until October, the judgment dismissing your suit. She made this complaint the very day of the incident.
Okay. First of all, her car has had many damages on it that she's never repaired. I can't testify as to what scratches and things she had on her car or why she did what she did.
This is a key mark, sir.
Okay, but it could have been there. I mean,
this is a key mark.
It was not there.
Here.
Okay.
Show him.
It was not there.
Okay, it's a key mark. You know, but that doesn't mean that I had anything to do with it. It could have been there. I could tell you that she had damages on her car that she's never repaired, and she's using it as an excuse. You know, if it was vandalism, as she claims, then in fact, from what I understand, it's a criminal act. Why didn't the police come, call me, do whatever they want, arrest me? There's no logic.
Your Honor.
Let's see. Just a second. You were given information on how to get a temporary restraining order
Yes.
against him. Did you do that?
No, I didn't because I left on a long cruise.
And like the police department said, if you're gone, I went all the way up to Alaska and Canada. There was no sense in getting a restraining order. I was going to be gone.
For how long?
I was gone for 12 days.
The cruise was before I even went there. The reason I know
she didn't
that
leave
is
till
because
afterwards.
one
Your
of her
Honor.
customers I had spoken to her and called me. The cruise was before.
What kind of business are you in, sir?
I'm in the ATM business. I sell ATM, cash dispensers, credit card processing, and so on. I was never an employee of hers. I was never a contract laborer of hers. I had my own company. She approached me to be a partner with her and hers.
I just asked you, shh. Have you ever been arrested?
Yes,
When?
2 years ago.
For what?
It was considered insurance fraud at the time. Although it was my own property. It was my own property that was stolen, and it was a nonsense thing, but that's how it was.
And you were convicted?
Yes.
Is that your first arrest, sir?
No.
When's the arrest just prior to that?
That was a case that was dropped on an advertising program that was eventually dropped.
How long was your probation on the insurance fraud?
2 years.
When is your probation up?
Oh, it was up before I came to California.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
This is not a criminal case. Criminal case, the burden of proof is proof by beyond a reasonable doubt that an act was committed. The quantum of proof in a civil case, and this is a civil case, is more evidence than not, what we call a preponderance of the credible evidence that an event occurred. So I must make a determination based upon common sense and based upon what I've heard, whether I am satisfied by a preponderance of the credible evidence, that is more evidence than not, that you did in fact key her car. I'm satisfied. So you have the estimates for the damage?
Yes, and it's already been taken care of.
$1,241.25 is what you paid to have the car repainted on both sides. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,241. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Thank you.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
You know, she never contacted me. She never notified me. The police never were involved. Nothing ever happened.
I have to tell you what he said in our last court case on October 7th when I told him I had 2 witnesses. 2 weeks ago. And he says, nobody saw me do it.
Daisy after she kicked and damaged his car during an argument.
Order, all rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please, all rise. Now, this is case number 274 on the calendar in the matter of Asada versus Daisy. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Have a seat.
Well, I have really 2 complaints here. One is your complaint, sir, against her. You're suing her because you say she purposely kicked your car, causing damage to it.
Yes.
And I have your complaint against him for several $1,000s. I think you're suing for $3,000 because you say he assaulted you.
Yes.
From what I gather from these papers, you 2 children have a child.
Yes.
And how old is this child?
She's 16 months.
How old are you?
23.
And how old were you when you had this baby?
It was right after my 16th birthday.
Were you living
right
at
after my 17th birthday. I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Were you living at home then?
I was living with him, and then about 2 weeks before I had the baby, I was getting no support from him, so I moved back in with my mom to get some support. Then right after I had the baby, then I moved back in with him.
You live at home?
Yes, I moved back there about 4 months ago.
So you live with your mother?
Yes.
And father?
No.
Just with your mother?
Yes.
Actually, I took responsibility for her for 3 years when her mother didn't want responsibility of her anymore, gave up custody of her, and I basically took her in for 3 years. When she was 9 months pregnant, her mother said that she didn't want her to move back home. She said that there was shelters out there that would take care of a teenage mother.
What'd you have problems with your mom about?
Just normal, rebellious. I wanted to go out. She wanted me.
You have a
not
drug
go out.
problem?
No.
Never?
No.
You hesitated for a minute.
I have done, yes, I have done drugs before in the past.
Know that. And you, sir?
Drug problem? No.
Yeah. Have you done any drugs?
No.
Was she doing drugs when she was living with you?
Yes, she was smoking marijuana.
Mm-hmm. What about when she was pregnant?
I don't believe so. Not that I can remember
What
now.
about after the baby was born?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, you separated, and then this incident occurred with your car. You want to tell me your version of it, sir?
Well, I was going to pick up a friend which lives close by to where she lives. And on the way back, we happened to see her walking with my daughter. So I stopped to, see my daughter. And
What time was this, sir?
it was about 9:45 p.m. She lives in a kind of a bad neighborhood. I was concerned for the welfare of my child. She said that she never walks the baby at that time, but obviously she does. When she came over to us, she asked us where we were going. I said we were going to go out. And she spit on us. She spit on me and him through my car window.
Let's take this step by step. And I want you to understand something. I'm very, very smart.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they keep me here. Not because I'm gorgeous. Right, Bird?
Well, that's a good enough reason.
I stopped my car. She came over to where my car was. I opened the door to the car, got out, saw my daughter.
What did you say to her?
I said, what are you doing with the baby out at this time at night?
And what? Okay, so right away we got a problem. You're saying to her, what are you doing outside with the baby? And what did she say to you?
She said that she was going to call me at a payphone across the street.
That was her answer?
Mm-hmm.
So far, is that correct?
No.
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 So then what happened?
So then after I, said goodbye to my daughter, I tried to leave. I got into my car. She put the baby stroller in front of my car door so I could not shut it. So I calmly got out and, moved the stroller away, shut my door. She said, where are you going? Going out. She spit on us. And then when I was pulling out, she started kicking my car.
What kind of car was this?
It's a Chevy Cavalier.
Okay, and I assume you have pictures to show me.
Yes.
Could I see them, please?
I also have an estimate.
I'll see that too. Okay. Now let's hear your version of the events and what you say happened on that evening.
Okay, normally I don't take my daughter out that late, but she was still up. I was going to get a treat for us from the store, about 200 feet from my apartment door to the Circle K across the street, okay? Walked to the store, got my things, was halfway across the street from the store and my apartment complex when I see him drive by. He makes a U-turn, turns into my apartment complex, and gets out and says, what are you doing with my daughter out this late, blah, blah, blah. Just starts totally harassing me. Yeah, I said, I'm not doing this in front of my daughter. So I start walking away. That's when he grabs me by my hair. I didn't know he was coming, because it was all quiet. He just grabs me by my hair and proceeds to just grab me by my arm, like kind of drag me on the ground. I skinned my knee. Then I got up, started to leave again. He kicks me in the stomach. I lose my wind, I gather myself up, and then by then I grab the stroller, start running from my apartment. I yell back, I am calling the police, you're not getting away with this one. He yells, I have 2 witnesses that say I didn't touch you. Okay, the whole time this was happening, this guy over here sitting in the chair, he was laughing. He sees a girl getting beat up, he's laughing, okay?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I'm telling you, the only one that I feel sorry for in this situation is this 18-month-old baby who happens to have two morons for parents.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Scott Azada is suing the mother of his child, 18-year-old Karen Dacey, claiming she kicked and damaged his car during an argument. Karen says Scott is abusive towards her and denies kicking his car.
So did you go up and call the police?
Yes, my mom was just going to bed, whatever. She said, you know, Karen, you know, I really don't want to deal with this tonight. So she asked me to make the phone call from across the street at the Circle K. I have a police report. They came out and...
You mean your mother told you, don't call from my house, go across the street? Is that what your mother told you? I'm asking you a question. Your mother told you, don't call from the house.
She didn't say don't. I could. She didn't... I told her I was going to call across the street. No, she didn't say. She was just saying, you know, why do we have to deal with this? Why does this always have to happen? You know, blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, just, you know, I was mad. I was like, just forget about it. I'll just call from across the street. I just don't want to bring her into any more. I've had so many problems with him. Everybody has to witness it around me. That's why she's here. I lost my job because she didn't want to witness this anymore. Yes.
Step up. Tell me your name.
Teresa Garner.
You said she was your nanny for a while. Do you mean she was your babysitter?
She was a babysitter. I have 3 children. I met Karen through Scott. He used to work at the mall that we have a plant rental and maintenance company, and we did the plants. I met Scott there. After Michelle was born, she didn't want to go back to work at Panda Express, a little fast food place, so I gave her a job where she could have the baby there.
Where she could have the baby at your place of business?
Right, where she was taking care of my kid, she could have the baby. Several times, Your Honor, she's come over crying. I took the baby away from these two in one incident because they're fighting all the time in front of my house. I told him neither one of them could have the baby. When they were acting like that, he had her outside, was trying to push her in the car, same thing, pulling her hair, calling her names. The verbal abuse went on forever. Little codes on her beeper, 187, which I guess is murder or something, and all this other kind of junk.
Have you ever seen him put his hands on her?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Sit down.
Thank you.
May I say something?
Absolutely. Step up here. Tell me your name.
Kevin Meimersdorf. When this occurred that night, also when she was all trying to get him away from the car to tell him, like wanting to talk to him privately, and he was like, "No, I got these witnesses. You can say whatever you have to say right here by the car."
You think that that's helpful to him?
Well,
what you just told me?
Well, yeah. I'd like to
just
say something.
You think that that's helpful?
Yeah.
I got a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
Where were you going?
We're going to my brother's house to pick him up.
And where does he live?
He lives on Chop and Boulder.
And how far is that from where the defendant lives?
I'd say maybe a quarter mile, if that.
Mm-hmm. And is there another way of getting there other than passing by the front of her apartment complex?
There is. Yes, there is. Yes,
Good.
there is.
So you could have gone a different route.
Right.
Who was driving?
He was.
So yet he chose to drive by her apartment complex. Right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. And when he got out of the car, the first thing he said to her is, "What are you doing outside at 8:45 with the baby?"
Right.
But he didn't say it in that kind of tone, did he?
No.
No.
I mean, well, he just exactly the tone what you just said. What are
you
doing?
think so? Is that what you remember, sir? Is that as true as everything else that you're going to tell me today?
Yes,
that in a very calm tone, he said to her, "Why are you out with the baby at 8:45?" Is that the tone?
Well, it might have been a little bit, a little bit more higher than that. I mean, definitely. I mean, not at a soft tone, but I mean, it's like, what are you doing at this late at night, basically at 9:30 at night, in this neighborhood?
And when he said that to her, sir, was there any profanity dotting his words? Like, did he say, "What the blank are you doing blank out at this blank hour"? Does that sound, ring a bell?
No, ma'am.
So far, I'm not getting the ring of truth from you, sir.
You're getting everything, all the truth.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Because it does, I mean, I'm not saying she's terrific.
Right.
Because I'm telling you, she's not terrific.
Right.
Right? And I'm telling you, the only one that I feel sorry for in this situation is this 18-month-old baby,
Right.
who happens to have two morons for parents, right? Her, because she doesn't know whether she's here or there or where she's going to be or what she's going to do or anything else. She's a baby. And you, who
Right.
enjoy a reasonable order of visitation from 2 in the afternoon till 8 o'clock at night, 4 days a week.
I haven't been able to enjoy it because I haven't been getting my visitation.
Well, then you go to court, sir, and you deal with it.
I am. I'm in the process of doing that.
Then that's what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to go around where she's living and confront her.
Oh, but that was not my main priority to go over
I didn't
there.
ask you whether it was your main priority. It shouldn't have been any priority. What you do is, if you've had periods of domestic violence and negative interaction with her, you stay away from her.
I've never, but she comes to my work also and harasses me there.
Just a second. I don't doubt that she does that.
And calls my house and comes by my house.
Listen to me. I don't doubt that she does that. Because I think she's a flake. I do.
She is.
I believe she's a flake. This lady knows she's a flake, right?
Young.
Young.
Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Flaky, young, too young to have an 18, to
That's
be
right.
responsible for an 18-month-old baby.
I agree.
There's no question about that. There is also no question in my mind, sir, that this evening wasn't as you have indicated to me, that you were just driving by to go pick up a friend and all of a sudden you saw her. You went by her apartment complex and it was the wrong thing to do.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
If you've taken drugs in the last 6 to 9 months, the hair follicle test will establish it. And if you wish to go, we will make arrangements for you to go immediately.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Scott Azada claims the mother of his child, Karen Dacey, kicked his car. Karen says she has a restraining order because Scott is abusive.
Mr. Rizzuto, you play with fire, you're going to get burned. You screw around with a teenager and make a baby with her, and that doesn't mean that your life's going to be easy. It's going to be harder. You have a child, and if you think that she's incapable of taking care of this child, and you may be right, and you may be a more appropriate custodial parent, the way to deal with it is through the court, not in the street at 9:45.
I feel, you know, I'm concerned about the welfare of my daughter. That is the main
Then, sir,
priority
you have
here.
to deal with that through the courts.
I've been dealing with it for 5 months and I haven't got one bit of satisfaction. I haven't even got a court date yet.
The court system didn't make your baby. Judge didn't get in there that night. That's right. You did. And you were old enough to have known better.
Yes.
You were, in the eyes of the law, an adult. She was a minor in the eyes of the law. So, when you went to the police, did they arrest him?
No, he was long gone.
And you, sir, did you make a police report?
No, I kind of just went home because I didn't want to deal with her anymore.
Did you ever pull her hair?
No.
Never?
No.
You mean she's lying when she says she saw you
Yep.
pull her hair?
She's also lying about her taking my child. She's never, I don't even trust her with my child over there because she smokes just as much dope as she does.
Can I say something in my defense? No,
I don't think she's capable of taking care of her own kids.
It's not necessary. It's not necessary. Well, I think that you two young people better decide that you're going to straighten up your lives because you made a baby, and the baby is the only innocent in this situation.
This is a picture of what looks exactly like a cigarette burn or...
And I've also...
Shh. Would you let her finish?
On my daughter, when she came home from visiting with him, I changed her diaper and into her pajamas right away, and I noticed this. He smokes, his whole family smokes, okay? And about the drugs and smoking, whatever, I have not even done any drugs since I've been with him. And the
Madam,
reason why
let me tell you something. A, he never burned your baby with a cigarette. Never happened. You could have a picture there, you could have 20 pictures there. I'm telling you, I've been in this business for 1/4 century. This man never purposefully injured that child, nor did he permit anybody else to purposefully injure that child. Now, he may have done lots of negative things to you, but he never purposely hurt his daughter. So you may be able to convince some other family court judge or some other moron that he did with the picture that you're going to show him. But I'm telling you, he never purposely hurt your daughter.
How would you know that?
How would I know it? Because I'm very smart. And I'm smarter than you'll be if you live to be 500. And I'm also prepared to tell you that you do smoke dope, and you have smoked dope more recently than from the time you first met him. And if I sent you today to have a hair follicle test, I guarantee you that that hair follicle test would bear me out. And if you are willing to go, we will make the arrangements for you to go for a hair follicle test, because the hair follicle test will establish when the last time, if you've smoked drugs or taken drugs in the last 6 to 9 months, the hair follicle test will establish it. And if you wish to go, we will make arrangements for you to go immediately.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Would you like me to make the arrangements right now, and I can have a hair follicle test done right now?
All I have to say to that is, not unless he's getting one. This guy has done more than marijuana.
Listen to me. Listen to me.
Why am I going to show something it was less than 6 months ago, because me and him only broke up 3.5 months ago. Why am I going to show what is wrong with me or whatever if this guy's sitting here, oh, I don't do drugs. This guy is the king of selling drugs, doing drugs, whatever.
Listen to me.
So why do we care about what I'm doing?
Why? There's a very easy answer to that question, madam. Because right now you are the primary custodial...
What I've done.
Hey! Right now you are the primary custodial parent of an 18-month-old child. That's why it's more important. And so I asked you a simple question. I said, do you want me to make arrangements for you to go for a hair follicle test? Your answer was no. Good. This is the judgment of the court. The judgment of the court is as follows. I am awarding the plaintiff $585 to fix his car. I am awarding the defendant $585 for the assault. That's a wash. Get out of here.
Parties are excused. Step out. You'll get him.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
She's been coming home with injuries, saying words that 1.5-year-olds should not be saying, all sorts of things.
It's just all garbage, pretty much.
I got one thing to say. You sell marijuana to little kids in the neighborhood, and I know that. And that's all I got to say.
Leave me alone. I'm glad that this happened.
Don't worry,
Just
I've
leave
left
me
you
alone.
alone for a long time,
I don't love you
girl.
anymore. Don't want you.
Bail bondsman Gene Wisenant claims Frank and Eleanor Concepcion owe him bail money and that Frank bit his finger when he tried to arrest him.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Judges number 277 on the calendar in the matter of Wisenant versus Concepcion. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, ma'am.
Mr. Wisenant, you are a bail bondsman.
Yes, ma'am.
This lady came to you because her husband, I suppose that's you.
Yes.
Correct? Was arrested.
She actually, Maria is my sub-agent who actually wrote the bond.
You came to her.
Well, I called her.
Because your husband was in jail. What was he arrested for?
For possession of stolen property.
Possession of stolen property is what he was arrested for. He was being held on how much bail?
$25,000.
$25,000.
There's one other charge there, Your Honor. It was PC 273.5, which is domestic violence.
So possession of stolen property and beating up his wife.
Actually, I believe it was his sister-in-law.
Sister-in-law. Because that's heavy bail, $25,000. Anyway, you charge 10%.
That is correct.
And you agreed to post the bail for him.
Yes, ma'am.
So he could get out of jail, right?
Right.
That was a nice thing for them to do.
It's her job.
Your fee, that's his job. For which he gets what?
For which he gets 10%.
Paid.
Right. Gets paid.
And at the time your wife came in,
all she had was $1,300. But they agreed to go ahead and post the bail anyway.
Right.
Correct. And there was an agreement, and what was the agreement about the rest of the bail, sir?
It was a signed promissory note to have the remaining balance of $1,300 paid in full by May 2nd.
And how many days after that?
That was actually 4 days after the bond was posted, and that was a date that was agreed upon by Maria, the agent writing the bail, and Eleanor.
May I see it, please? So, Ms. Concepcion, you signed this promissory note to come in 4 days later and post the rest of the bail.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
Did you?
I tried. That I didn't. No.
You didn't?
No.
And you, sir, got out of jail.
Yes.
Did you go in and post the money?
No, I didn't. I told her, directly, I told her, I said, there's no possible way that I'm going to be able to have that money for you. Now, is there a way that we can make arrangements for the balance? Payments such as, $200 a month.
Just a second. These aren't your relatives. They're in business.
But, Your Honor, she told me that if I had any problems making the payments, she could make arrangements.
Correct. But when I had also spoken to her and we did the promissory note, I told her to tell me the date that she can come up with this money. So I gave her an option to either pay it off in full or do payments. And she told me that she could come up with the money by May 2nd, which was a couple days later.
Okay. Now listen. The most important thing for you was to get your husband out of jail.
Yeah.
You signed this piece of paper that promised that you would make the payment to the bail bondsman, who stands to lose all the money, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Not just this little bit of money, but $25,000.
That is correct.
Because you are ensuring that he's going to show up and do the right thing.
Yes, ma'am.
That's his business. Okay. So you got what you needed momentarily, which was to get out of jail. You promised whatever you had to promise, and then you didn't pay it. How many times have you been arrested? Can't try to count on one hand.
No.
How
I
many
haven't been
times?
arrested that many times.
So you know the drill?
Not really.
Are you sure you do? How old are you?
37.
You've been arrested more than 3 times, sir? Make sure you tell me the truth.
Actually, about 3 times.
Yeah, the money issue was actually secondary on...
I know.
Okay.
Because your lawsuit says that he didn't show up.
To sign the paperwork, that is correct.
To sign the paperwork, and he was supposed to.
There's also
That's
another.
this other form.
Can I see that, please?
His wife signed. Sign that.
Now, you signed this paper agreeing that you would produce your husband in their office within 48 hours of his release to sign the remainder of the paperwork. Right?
Right. But she told me, because I didn't have the money, she told me not to go in.
Did you ever tell her not to come in?
No.
Baloney! Baloney! She never told you not to bring him in to sign the rest of the paperwork? Paperwork is what he has to have.
When I spoke to her, why wouldn't she tell me this? She told me
Just a second, sir. Were you told by your wife that you had to go in within 2 days to sign some paperwork?
No.
Baloney. Baloney. You
I
know,
don't think
there's a
so.
certain common sense, sir. You've been in jail before, you've been arrested before, you've had bond posted before. You know the drill.
She told me about taking a picture, yes, okay.
Right.
But like I said, I
Just a
spoke
second.
to this woman
Yeah.
personally.
Your wife told you that you had to go in and sign some paperwork and have your picture taken. So the answer is yes. Right?
Picture taken, yes.
Did you go?
Did we don't know?
No, because we didn't have the money.
This says when you're released within 48 hours, you have to come to his office. Is that what it says?
Correct.
It is in English. Clear as a bell.
So don't tell me
I
about going to
understand
court
that.
the
No,
next
I
day.
understand that, but she told us not to come in because we're
There was a lot
making a
of
trip
things
for
said
nothing.
verbally.
I would call her and she would tell me she would come in the next day. There was no one, she never ever came in. I kept calling, telling me that her check or whatever, for whatever which reasons, she didn't have the money. And I told her, okay, if you don't have the money, come in and we can make payment
You
arrangements.
told me
but
you were
he
gonna
needs
arrest
to
me.
Come in.
Hey,
If the paper on the agreement said, on that agreement that we just handed to you, said if he didn't come in within 48 hours, then we could arrest him.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He's trying to put his finger in my eye. Instinct, I bite on that finger.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Bail bondsman Gene Wisenant says Frank Concepcion owes him bail money. When Gene went to collect, Frank says there was an altercation over a gun.
Tell me what happened when you went to arrest him.
Here we go.
There were 2 times. The first night was on a Wednesday, the 14th, I believe. I went to the mother-in-law's house, which was listed as his residential address. I went there, I saw Eleanor, and I saw his mother-in-law, and a number of other people there. I went through the house, he wasn't there. Gave Eleanor and her mother my business cards with instructions to have Frank call me when he came back in.
You're a liar, man.
Shh. Hey, I want you to be quiet, sir. Don't talk to him. You're going to have a chance to speak. How much after you posted the bail for him did you go to effectuate the arrest?
About 2.5 weeks, almost 3 weeks.
Okay. And in that 2.5 to 3 weeks' time, had he come in to make any payment whatsoever?
No, ma'am. As a matter of
Had
fact,
his wife come in to make any payment whatsoever?
no, ma'am.
Okay. So you went to arrest him. And tell me what happened when you got there.
Got to the house. We were watching the house. Maria was the driver. I was going to effect the arrest. I had Maria move the car. I was standing in the shadow next to the side of the house when Maria pulled to the light to square the block and come back on a different location. Frank's, as I find out later, it was Frank's younger brother comes out, sees her pull away, yells something out. Frank goes running across the street, out to the front door, across the street to his parked car. That is correct. I yelled out his name. I yelled his name again and ordered him to stop. He turned around, looked over his shoulder at me, ran back towards the house. I stopped him in the driveway, side of the house in the side driveway. We rolled to the ground. As we were rolling, I felt his hand go for my gun. I clamped his hand. At that point, I basically gave up on the encounter. My whole goal, my whole purpose in life at that point was to hold the gun in the holster, not allow the gun to get released, get out. I had his left hand clamped to my gun and my gun pressed down in the holster. He was able to straddle my body, get his right hand around my throat.
Tell the truth now.
I'm going to throw you out of the courtroom. Take your hands out of your pockets and be quiet. You're going to have your opportunity, sir, to tell me your version of the story. How many times do I have to tell you that?
Okay, continue.
He's got his hand on my throat and his other hand on my gun. I put my hand up to his head. I can still feel the ridge of his eye socket under my thumb with the intention of rolling my thumb in. I rolled my hand down across his face to rock his head back and force him off of me. When my hand came down across his face, he clamped down on my left index finger. Still have a scar on each side. He clamped down. I felt his jaw rake across it. His brother then got up to my right side. I felt his brother pry at my hand on the gun, and either I hit him with my elbow or I kneed him with my knee.
Must be his auntie.
My hand got free at that point.
Do me a favor. Would you stand behind him? Because I want to get this case over with, so I don't want to throw him out of the courtroom. But maybe your presence is there, Officer Byrd, will remind him to keep his mouth shut until it's his turn.
I don't think so.
Go ahead.
When he yelled out, I was able to get my hand free. I pried his hand off my throat. At that point, I guess he felt he was losing control. He tried to stand up. Because I was holding both of his hands, he pulled me up as well. His brother put up both his hands on my chest and pushed me back to the ground, struck me trying to hit my groin missing. Frank got up, took 2 or 3 steps. I either pushed or punched his brother again to get him off of me. Frank took a step back and yelled, "Don't hit my brother." I was able to get up. Frank ran to his car across the street. Maria was parked in the middle of the street on the phone with the local police department. She witnessed the whole thing. Frank got away that night, and then I went straight from there. Police officer responded about 10 or 15 minutes later, took a report, and I went directly to the emergency room to get medical care for my finger.
So the remainder of your lawsuit is for the bite.
The bite, yes, ma'am.
Okay, now it's your turn.
Okay, first of all, we talked on the phone, and this is after 2 weeks. We spoke on the phone. I have not yet even spoke to this man. I spoke to her, and her and my wife were talking. We agreed to come down to their office at that evening. The call was about 4 o'clock. We agreed to be there about 8 o'clock. I left the house. I told my wife, I said, we'll go down there, meet me down there at 8 o'clock. I have to go to my father's and run some errands, okay, for my father. Okay, this was at my father's place. Okay, I went outside. I was leaving after I ran the errands for my father, okay. This was nighttime already, it was dark. I go to my car, it was parked across the street, okay. As I'm going across the street, it's dark too, there's not many lights out there. Now, he's hiding behind a bush, okay? All of a sudden, I'm walking across the street, I'm in the middle of the street, and somebody says, hold it. You move it, I'll shoot. He got his .357 out, pointing right at me, okay? And I look at him, I don't know who he is. He never identified himself at all, okay? I don't know who the heck, he could be trying to rob me. You know, I run, I take off. As I'm running back towards my place, okay, the garage, I turn around, because he's right behind me, I turn around and smack him one. Okay, then I pick him up and I throw him, body slam him on my garage. Okay, at this point, he's going for his gun again. Now, when he goes for his gun, I put my elbow up in his throat, okay, and I'm grabbing for the gun, because I'm going to take it from him before he shoots me.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You're wrong about that.
I'm wrong. I was wrong once in
Your Honor,
1947.
You're wrong again in 1998.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Bail bondsman Gene Wisenant says Frank Concepcion tried to jump bail. When he tried to collect, an altercation ensued.
Just tell me your version of what happened that day.
This man's going for his gun like it was the thing to do, like he's some super cop or something. You ain't about nothing, though. But I'm going to tell you, okay, as I'm going for his gun, all right? And this time he's got, like he said, he's trying to put his finger in my eyes. Instinct, I bite on that finger, all right? Then I pull the gun out from his holster and toss it in the bush. Now, I don't want some accident to happen because this guy's acting like a fool out. Would just pull out his gun, you know, like he thinks he can do this. I haven't jumped bail. I haven't missed my court date. I haven't even had my court date yet. And he's coming at me with a gun?
Okay. Now, I have a couple of questions for you, sir. You were running errands for your father, and you were supposed to be at his office. Shut! Just pay attention to me.
Okay.
You were supposed to be at his office at 8 o'clock. That was the plan. That's what you told me, correct?
Right, correct.
Did you go to his office at 8 o'clock? The answer is either yes or no.
No.
Right. Because when he came to your house, it was after 8 o'clock, correct?
No, it was before 8
What
o'clock.
time? What time?
7:30, 20 till.
But he had came
Just
to the
a
house
second.
before
Just a
me.
second. Hey.
I was there.
Just answer my... Listen
was
to me.
there.
Listen to me. Truth of the matter is, the two of you had absolutely no intention of going to his office
Yes,
at 8
I
o'clock.
did. I was going.
You
It
had
only
to-
takes 15 minutes to get there.
Oh, baloney.
They had no intentions of meeting us at their office.
It was all set up.
Listen to me. It may have been a setup, but you had no intention of going there, paying the money, and having your picture taken, and filling out the rest of the
paying
paper.
money. It wasn't about paying money.
It's
It
about
was
making
about
a
signing
check.
a contract to pay $200 a month.
All right.
For the rebalance.
Okay,
of the
let's go. Let's finish up that. And let me get to the next thing that's troubling me about your version of this story, sir. When you first started to tell me the story, you told me he was hiding in the bushes, which means that you saw him hiding in the bushes.
No.
And, well, then how did you know he was hiding in the bushes?
Because I crossed the street and he said, hold it, move and I'll shoot. That's when I looked and he
okay.
was hiding in the bushes.
I see. So you saw him hiding in the bushes. What did you say no for? You saw him hiding in the bushes, right?
Okay.
Then you just went through a whole story about where does he come off taking out his gun. It's only a bail, and I hadn't missed my court date. Isn't that what you just told me?
That's correct.
Right. Just a minute.
Then at the beginning of the story that you were telling me you thought he was a robber, there to rob you. How could he be a robber and a bail bondsman at the same time?
He never identified himself. I told you. You're not listening to me.
No, I'm listening to you, sir.
No, I told you he did not identify himself. He never had.
You said to me, where does he come off pulling a gun, a .357 Magnum on me, as a bail bondsman?
I'm speaking after the fact already, okay?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Listen, I've heard both stories. A, you owe him the money for the bail, because that's what you promised, madam, to pay him. That's the written... Stand closer to him.
Stand as close as you want, brother.
That's what you promised. That's what you agreed. You agreed to come in and pay $1,200, right?
Right.
So that's what you owe him. And what I am finding, based upon common sense is that he got out of jail and he said, let him come find me.
No, you're wrong.
Sure.
You're wrong
Didn't
about
come
that.
in. I'm wrong. I was wrong once in
Your Honor,
1947.
You're wrong
But
again
since
in
1947, I didn't. You are suing, sir, for assault. It's
Yes,
clear
sir.
to me from his own version of what happened that he knew exactly who you are when you stopped him, that he was avoiding you, that the family was avoiding you, and that you were effectuating a lawful arrest in order to secure your bail, because it was now 2.5 to 3 weeks, and the person for whom you had posted bail failed to come in to complete the necessary paperwork and failed to keep that part of the agreement that provided for the remainder of the 10% of the bail. So you had an absolute right to go in and effectuate an arrest under the laws in this jurisdiction, and you were assaulted. And I believe that he knew who you were, that what he should have done was stop immediately. He did not do that. Based upon his own statement.
Do you believe he identified himself?
I'm not here to answer your questions. You answer my questions. Based upon his own statement, he turned around and struck you before you struck him. He said that, not you. He says he turned around and assaulted you. So I'm granting you your judgment for $3,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
You come at me.
Yeah, I keep smiling like that.
Yeah, you keep smiling, okay?
Because you know it's wrong what you did,
I'll
okay?
drop you again.
You know it's wrong. Especially in front of the kids. You did that stuff.
You pull out a gun in front of my kids. Sucker, I'll beat you, all right? Don't. You're lucky I let you go, okay? You're lucky. You're lucky I didn't pistol whip you with your own gun.
Debbie McClain. Deborah charges that Ms. McClain failed to honor an agreement to enter her daughter Christina in a beauty pageant. Debbie McClain says there was no arrangement. The money was for a sponsorship.
Order, all rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Yeah, this is case number 237 on the calendar in the matter of Senna versus McClain. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, please.
Let me see if I understand this complaint. Miss Senna, you have a young daughter.
Yes, I do.
This is your daughter, Miss McClain.
Yes, ma'am.
Your daughter had been involved in modeling as a younger child, and probably even today. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, Miss Senna, don't look at your papers. Look at me. According to your complaint, you two ladies became acquainted. You were approached by the defendant, asked if you would like to sponsor her daughter in an upcoming beauty pageant. Is that right?
Yes.
And what was the sponsorship cost?
Well, I guess the sponsorship was, I asked her, she said $185.
So that's what it cost to
Yes,
sponsor.
ma'am.
And what else did she say to you?
That she would put my daughter in a beauty pageant that she was running, that she was having, and she would be able to get my daughter into another beauty pageant if she was to get into this first one, which was at the Fallbrook Community Center.
So according to you, you had an agreement with her that if you sponsored her daughter at the cost of $185, she would make sure that your daughter would be in a beauty pageant.
Yes.
And that's why you sponsored her.
Yes.
And you say?
And I say, yes, she did sponsor my daughter. My daughter had gone to her. She was babysitting for her at the time. And she sponsored my daughter to be in a beauty pageant. My daughter did go into the beauty pageant. She won the beauty pageant. At about 2 months later, I did tell her I was going to have a preliminary pageant for another state pageant, and that I would in turn let her daughter go into the pageant at no cost. But at the time my daughter had won this one, we didn't even know we were going to have a beauty pageant. At the time I was supposed to have the beauty pageant, I didn't have it. My mother's mother, my grandmother, had died, and I couldn't have the pageant, and I had to go to Kentucky for the funeral, so I didn't.
So there was never another pageant which this lovely little girl in purple could participate?
Deborah Senna had called me quite a few times and said that she, once she found out I was not going to have the Fallbrook pageant, said that I promised her. I said, I told you you could be, your daughter could be at a pageant at no cost, and I told her that I would just put her daughter in the state pageant with no.
So there was some sort of an understanding that her daughter was going to be in a beauty pageant with your assistance.
Not at the time of her sponsorship. That was not a gift. That was a gift to Casey. It was 2 months later. I told her I would, since she did sponsor Casey, I would put her daughter in a pageant. But that was not a stipulation.
That's not true, Your Honor.
I want to know at the time that you. By the way, I assume you have proof of this $185.
Yes,
you have a canceled check?
Yes.
Well, then, could you tell me why you're suing her for $300 and some odd dollars?
Well, $185 was for the check, and then $100 for my daughter. And
$100 for your daughter for what?
Just because my daughter talked about this pageant. Her daughter, Casey, came to my house and babysat and had my daughter all pumped up for this pageant. She had my daughter walking with books on her head, getting her ready and telling her what to do for this pageant. She talked about it to her friends. She was heartbroken about this.
So it's for sort of punitive damages that you're asking money for?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And you're countersuing her for $2,500 for some nonsense because you say she harassed you?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, how did she harass you?
When she would call my house repeatedly, sometimes 3-4 times a day. She would swear. The swearing was unbelievable. She came into my place of employment, went to my boss, stated facts that weren't true.
Like what? Were you there?
Yes, ma'am.
What did she say?
She said that I was a bitch and I was a whore, and that I had no reasonable reason to be a mother, and that I owed her money, and that Ron, my boss, should get the money from me. And she would call my house.
Does that sound familiar?
No, absolutely not, Your Honor. That is a big lie. That is a big lie.
You?
Your Honor. Well, the things on the phone, she repeatedly called me. She told me I was a whore just like my mother. Called me an F and B. And I've been taught to give adults respect, but I expect respect from them. And it's something me and my mother have not been getting from her.
Did you make those statements to this
No,
young lady?
ma'am, I did not. I called, and Casey told me on the telephone, I cannot talk to you about this.
Are you in a business?
I have a business, Tony's Masonry. It's my husband's business.
When you sponsored someone,
yes,
their name appears on a program or something. Do you have that program?
I never got a program, ma'am.
Do you have it?
I don't have a program. It happened 1.5 years ago. We recently moved 5 months ago. But I do have a copy of a normal sponsorship agreement saying that there was no refunds are available.
Just a second. That's not what I'm asking you. I asked you one thing. I asked you for apples. You gave me mashed potatoes.
I'm sorry.
Okay? What I asked you is, I assume, put it down. I assume that if your daughter is in the pageant industry, that you keep a scrapbook. And I assume that you keep all the memorabilia from all of her pageants. That only sounds like common sense to me. Put your hand down. I'm really smart. So I assume you have all of the books from your daughter's pageant.
5 months ago, we moved, and I told Casey to get rid of all of that stuff she was collecting.
How many pageants have you been in?
Around 15.
That's not a lot to keep. Especially one that you won. You understand what I mean? Do you understand what I mean? Especially a pageant that you won, you don't get rid of. You keep this, but you keep the crown, but you don't keep the program.
Right.
That doesn't sound logical to me. Why didn't you pay for this $185 yourself?
I didn't even start this process. Casey went to Deborah and asked for a sponsorship.
Did you initially have the conversation with her?
Yes, I did.
When?
One time I was babysitting for her daughter.
And what did you say to her?
I said, Debbie, I'm entering a beauty pageant, and if I would like to be in it, I have to pay for it myself or figure out a sponsorship to go into the pageant. So I asked Debbie, since I was babysitting her daughter, if she would sponsor me. And not at that time I said that she could be in a beauty pageant.
And what did she say?
She said she'd love to. And it was out of her business, too.
She said she would love to.
Right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I really wish Debbie would shut up.
You know what? That's respect.
Well, you don't give me respect, Debbie.
You don't deserve it.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 37-year-old Deborah Sena is suing 39-year-old Debbie McLean over a beauty pageant which her daughter Christina was to enter. Debbie McLean says she was paying for her daughter Casey's sponsorship, not for Deborah's daughter Christina to be in another pageant.
So when did she have a conversation with your mother?
I believe she had a conversation with my mother on the phone, seeing if it was fine, see if I asked Debbie, and then we went to her house to pick up the check.
Together?
Yes.
Does that sound right to you?
Your Honor?
Miss Sena, look at me.
Does not.
She did not speak to you first
No, she did
about
not.
it?
No, she did not. I spoke to her mother on the telephone. We were talking about sponsoring. One was contingent to the other.
No, that's not what I asked you, Miss Sena.
And, I'm sorry.
This young lady says that she asked you first to be her sponsor.
No, she did not. Her mother and I spoke about it on the telephone while I talked to her mother about having her daughter babysit for me. That's how that happened.
Okay, we don't have to take very long with this. Giving your story the best possible scenario. Okay, your story. You agreed to sponsor her, and she agreed that in the future, sometime in the future, your daughter was going to be in a pageant that she was going to run.
No, ma'am.
No, yes, that's exactly what happened. It wasn't the same pageant, it was a second pageant.
It was the Fallbrook pageant.
It was another pageant that never took place. Is that correct?
Right.
All right. So the other pageant never took place, and therefore she could not fulfill that part of even assuming your agreement unless you can establish to my satisfaction that it was owing to her fault and her fault alone, her negligence, that second pageant didn't take place. You're at $185.
If
you sponsored her daughter. Now, I'm not 100% satisfied that both of these young ladies telling me the truth. And that includes you. You understand me?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Because as sweet and as adorable as you look, I think you're a pretty good actress. That's because I have daughters.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So I know daughters can be pretty good actresses. But Miss Sena, I know your daughter is disappointed. I know she's unhappy, but you didn't have a writing with this lady that one was contingent on the other.
I have a witness that heard her say this in my house when I presented the check to her.
Oh, you do?
Yes, I do, ma'am. She's
I'd
right
like
here.
to hear the witness.
My friend's name is Maria.
Maria, you step up here. Now, Maria what?
She came over to...
No, Maria what? Your
Maria
last name?
Cazares. Cazares? Your Honor, she came to Deborah's house, and we had just gotten there, and...
Who's we?
Me and Deborah. And she came over, and her daughter came in the house, and she says her daughter and Christina went outside to look at the pool, and she said, Deborah gave her the check, and Debbie said, okay, and this is for, you're sponsoring my daughter, and in return, I will put Christina in the Fallbrook pageant.
Are you telling me that she said, in return, are those the words, listen to me, are those specifically the words that you remember as you stand here under oath? You remember her saying to you, and in return, I will put your daughter?
Yes,
Maria.
I do, Your Honor.
What makes you remember that so vividly, madam?
Because it was a big thing with Christina. She was telling everybody. She was, you know.
I didn't ask you why it was important to the child. I asked you, what makes it so clear in your mind that you can stand here today under oath and you tell me that you specifically remember her using the words, in return for?
Because I remember her saying that.
And how long ago was this?
In May.
Mm-hmm. Of this year?
Yep. Not this year, 96.
I'm not sure whether I believe that. In any event, I think that this is a sad situation. Did you write a business check for this $185?
Yes, I did, ma'am. Your Honor?
Yeah.
May I say something, please?
Sure.
When Deborah came into my home and Maria heard her, Deborah just, the kids were in the backyard and she came in the house and she took my check so fast and she did say she's going to, in return, put my daughter into her beauty pageant.
Yep, she didn't have a beauty pageant.
And she took out.
Just
Yes,
a
she
second.
didn't.
She didn't have one. Did she have a beauty pageant that you didn't put your daughter in?
No, but that's why I did the sponsoring.
No, but just a second. Did she have a beauty pageant that you didn't put your daughter in?
No. And that's why I did it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Her daughter is one of the biggest brats I've ever known in my life. She's a brat. Look at you.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 37-year-old Deborah Sena is suing 39-year-old Debbie McClain. Deborah charges that Ms. McClain failed to honor an agreement to enter her daughter Christina in a beauty pageant. Debbie McClain says there was no arrangement. The money was for a sponsorship.
Did she have a beauty pageant that you didn't put your daughter in?
No. And I really feel really taken, and I'm sorry that it had to be this way, because I just wouldn't be here if I didn't feel that I was, you know, I wouldn't be...
Taken.
Right.
You think that Miss Sena feels as if she was taken? Miss McClain?
I believe she feels like she was taken.
Okay. Now, she feels as if she was taken because she was led to believe by you, led to believe that her little girl was going to have an opportunity to be in a beauty pageant. That's correct? Is that correct?
She believes, yes, ma'am.
Is that correct? Okay. And you did not fulfill that part of the agreement because you say your grandmother died.
It wasn't a part of the agreement at the time of the sponsorship.
Let us assume she believed that based upon everything, that was why she was giving you $185.
That's what she believes, yes, ma'am.
Right. Now, you say you led some credence to that because you, in your answer, say, well, the other pageant didn't take place because I had some personal problems.
I said she could be in it at no cost 2 months later. Yes, ma'am.
At no cost because you were arranging it.
Yes, ma'am.
But then you didn't arrange it.
I was unable to fulfill my obligation having the pageant, and it did upset quite a few young ladies, and it upset me that I couldn't have it.
Good.
But I did have a
But
death
none
in
of
the
those
family.
other ladies that it upset had given you $185.
Had given my daughter, yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you can understand why she's upset.
Yes, ma'am, I
And you can understand why her little girl is upset.
Yes, ma'am, I can.
All right? All right. Miss Sena, I'm not exactly sure that I'm getting the truth, the 100% truth from you or from you. I know what you thought. And I know you thought that you got taken, because I don't think otherwise you would have sponsored, you would have given her a check for $185. How much did you used to pay her for babysitting?
I paid her $350, and I always paid Casey really good because my daughter always liked her. And I really do feel taken.
Why didn't you save the money from babysitting for sponsor money?
Because I used all the extra, like all my babysitting money as what a regular teenager would do.
Well, why didn't you save it for your sponsorship?
Because when I was babysitting her, I really didn't think I was going to be in this beauty pageant. It was at the last minute thing.
Oh, why was it at the last minute?
Because I didn't get the entry form until late.
So that you didn't have any money?
Right, for myself.
So, and you wanted to do it very badly?
Yes, I did.
Now, now the common sense part is coming together, so that you went to her immediately.
Right.
This lady immediately.
Right.
All right. Very good. I understand.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
All right, Ms. Senior, I do believe that you are entitled to $185 from these people. I don't believe you're entitled to any more. I don't believe you're entitled to compensation for your daughter's pain and suffering or anything else. And I am dismissing your counterclaim for $2,500. So, I'm going to tell you one other thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Telling the truth is very important.
Yes, ma'am, I know.
Some people have a special gift. They may be very dumb at certain things, but some people can tell when somebody is lying to them. It's one thing when older people lie. Sometimes I think that it's reasonable. It certainly sets a bad example. It certainly sets a bad example.
She is not lying, Your Honor.
Well, I'm not so sure.
Well, I'm not sure.
I'm not so sure that the agreement that you two ladies made with your daughter, either present or outside the room, gave this lady the distinct impression that if she was going to shell over $185, it was with the understanding and assurance that it's a future date and a future pageant. Her little girl was going to have the same opportunity to go around and prance around on stage and be in a pageant. And that's why you showed her how to walk, showed her how to move, showed her how to do all those things. That's what the inducement was. That was the inducement.
But it was not a contingency. At the time when she sponsored my daughter, I did not even know I was going to have a beauty pageant.
Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff for the amount of $185. That's all.
You're excused. You may step out.
That's not
Let's get out of here.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
You're looking now at the real Debbie.
What's wrong with
her
me?
attitude.
I'm happy, Debbie. I'm really happy. You are sad. You called me names. What's the difference?
You called me an effing hoe. You called my mother an effing hoe.
When?
You called my mom a bitch.
Look at you. Look, when did I call you that?
You called
Why would I? You know what, Casey? Grow up, okay?
No, you.